Doulou Dalu, the power of a book. Hey, fanfic family. So glad to see you here again to continue this incredible adventure. As always, kindly remember, this story is 100% fiction, so don't go looking for dimensional portals in your closet. All rights to this fantastic novel belong to the original author. We're just your humble narrators of epic tales. Are you enjoying the fanfic? Show it by subscribing to our YouTube channel and dropping us a like. And if you're impatient for more exclusive content, our Patreon is your happy place. Chapter 26, Second Spirit Skill Effect. Su Wen glanced at Bai Yuan. Bai Yuan had been warned by Salis not to spread Su Wen's theories, and Su Wen had also been informed of this. However, can the absorption of the 1,000-year-old second ring by Su Wen itself be exposed? Bai Yuan nodded at Su Wen. Sooner or later, it will be exposed. It definitely cannot be hidden. Xiao Zhan ignored the eye contact between Su Wen and Bai Yuan, waiting for Su Wen to release the martial spirit. Taking a deep breath, Su Wen reached out his right hand, and a simple book emitting a brilliant light, with intricate purple patterns spread throughout, appeared above his right hand. On the cover of the book, there was an exquisite pupil pattern. Looking at Su Wen's martial spirit appearance, Xiao Zhan had already shown a pleased expression. Okay. The quality will definitely not be low, however, as Su Wen's feet rose with a yellow and purple spirit ring each, his expression also froze. He widened his eyes, carefully counting Su Wen's spirit ring numbers, recalling Bai Yuan's mention of Su Wen's soul power level a couple of days ago, and then recalling his own understanding of colors. He doubted everything he understood, until finally confirming that his perception hadn't gone wrong, and his memory wasn't confused. Su Wen's second spirit ring is a 1,000-years-old spirit ring. His Xiao Zhan's gaze suddenly turned towards Bai Yuan. Old Bai, what are you doing? Ordinary spirit hall members aside, can Su Wen's situation be considered ordinary? Why did you ask me to introduce him to the academy? Bai Yuan wore a helpless expression and said, Su Wen's situation is very special. His enrollment in the Douluo Royal Academy was permitted by His Royal Highness the Supreme Pontiff. Old Xiao, although you are a teacher at the Douluo Royal Academy, you also belong to the Spirit Hall. The Supreme Pontiff's orders cannot be violated. The news about Su Wen's origin from the Spirit Hall cannot be disclosed. Su Wen can possess a 1,000-year-old second ring, but we cannot expose his background from the Spirit Hall. Otherwise, what would be the intention behind such a genius entering the Douluo Royal Academy? It's bound to arouse some suspicions. Xiao Zhan felt somewhat helpless. Only after regaining his senses did he remember that Su Wen possessed a book martial spirit. A book martial spirit with a 1,000-years-old second ring? How did he manage to do it? Second ring passed. Xiao Zhan curiously observed Su Wen's martial spirit. What are your two spirit skills? Xiao Zhan asked. Bai Yuan also seemed curious. He had discussions with Su Wen, but those were about the theories of spirit master cultivation. He knew nothing about Su Wen's spirit skills. My first spirit skill is enhancement, capable of enhancing my martial spirit comprehensively. Su Wen replied, for the book martial spirit doesn't serve much purpose. It won't hinder anything either. On the contrary, if subsequent spirit rings can enable his book martial spirit to possess battle-type spirit skills, then this first spirit skill can provide comprehensive amplification. Pretty good, pretty good. And what about your second spirit skill? Xiao Zhan was curious about Su Wen's spirit skill acquired through the absorption of a 1,000-years-old spirit ring across levels. My second spirit skill is control, controlling the power of wind and fire elements, Su Wen explained. Strictly speaking, the effect of Su Wen's second spirit skill isn't the control of the two major elements, but spiritual control, capable of manipulating the natural energies of wind and fire within a certain range using a spiritual power. There are factors such as the triple-eyed phantom fox's ability to construct illusions with spiritual power, as well as Su Wen's control over his own body, that collectively enabled him to possess this second spirit skill course. All of this requires Su Wen to experiment and develop. As for his current control over the wind and fire elements, it is more accurately described as a derivative ability resulting from the combination of this spirit skill with his innate talents. 1. The triple-eyed phantom fox itself also possesses the bloodline of the fire cloud fox and the swift wind fox, and while undergoing a spiritual attribute mutation, she also mastered these two major attributes. In other words, she is primarily a spiritual attribute, while simultaneously possessing the secondary attributes of wind and fire. After absorbing the second spirit ring, Although Su Wen's martial spirit did not inherently possess the attributes of wind and fire, nor does it have spirit skills related to these attributes, the transformation from the triple-eyed Phantom Fox's spirit ring made his martial spirit more compatible with these two elements and allowed him to gain some affinity towards them. Su Wen merely utilizes the spiritual control of the second spirit skill and his own exceptionally strong sensory talents to manifest this affinity. Su Wen did not fully disclose his situation. It's not a matter of trust, but spirit skills are inherently private, much like how a normal person wouldn't disclose the color of their underwear to others. Providing a rough overview is advantageous for Su Wen to learn practical things from Xiao Zhan in the future. Control over both wind and fire elements. Xiao Zhan's eyes brimmed with excitement. Are you sure? He grasped Su Wen's shoulder, staring into Su Wen's eyes. Yet, it must be said that Su Wen's current situation aligns very well with Xiao Zhan. Not only is he exceptionally talented in cultivation, but the two spirit rings he currently possesses also pose no issues, and the direction of his development aligns with Xiao Zhan's. Control over the fire element. Control over elements with a spiritual attribute. Bai Yuan pondered, surprised that Su Wen had obtained such a spirit skill. If that's the case, then Su Wen's second spirit ring is very cost-effective. Regardless of the benefits brought by its age, whether it's the enhancement of his spiritual power and the corresponding traits mutated from his martial spirit by the primary spiritual attribute spirit ring, or the of this spirit skill that can completely lead Su Wen into the path of a battle spirit master, they are all top-notch. After spending 5 days in the library reviewing all the materials, Bai Yuan, as a theoretical scholar, had long speculated from their conversations about the characteristics of his mutated martial spirit. No wonder you're so persistent about becoming a battle spirit master, Wen. You're excellent. Xiao Zhan also regained his composure. Since you've entered the Heavendao Royal Academy to study under my guidance, I will do my best to teach you techniques regarding controlling the fire element through books. He didn't mention apprenticeship. Su Wen is now under the eye of the Supreme Pontiff of the Spirit Hall. He can't act on his own, lest he fall into certain vortexes. Thank you, Uncle Zhan. Xiao, focus on your cultivation under my guidance. You don't need to pay attention to other students at school or interact with them. Xiao Zhan reminded one the Heavendao Royal Academy is truly a place full of spoiled brats. Except for the team Qin Ming currently leads, which had specially recruited geniuses by the academy, there are few who earnestly practice situation at the Heavendao Royal Academy. Su Wen doesn't want to attract attention. When he was at the Nuoding Primary Spirit Master Academy, apart from the fight with Boss Xiao, he was basically invisible, hardly making his presence known. He knows what's more important. Okay, let's go. I'll take you to meet the 3 Board of Education members first. If you want to read 20 chapters ahead, check out patreon.com/JohanLT. Chapter 27, Board of Education Arrangements. The 3 Board of Education members are also members of Spirit Hall, but they are also appointed by the Heavendao Emperor, and their sense of belonging to Spirit Hall is not strong, Xiao Zhan explained to Su Wen. Su Wen listened to Xiao Zhan's introduction. He could sense that Xiao Zhan was straightforward, but not careless. Instead, he was thoughtful. That's not appropriate. As already mentioned, the identity of a 1,000-year-old second rank cannot be concealed. So, if this genius joining the Heavendao Royal Academy doesn't want to cause any uncontrollable waves, it's best to change the identity associated with Spirit Hall. Su Wen also expressed understanding of this. The 3 Board of Education members have semi-independence, and it is highly probable that they will not favor Spirit Hall. This is different from Uncle Zhan, whose wife and children are all serving in Spirit City and Spirit Hall in official capacities. Xiao Zhan had been giving Su Wen his final instructions all along. Heavendao Imperial Academy, Board of Education. Su Wen followed Xiao Zhan inside. These are the 3 esteemed members of the Board of Education. This is Su Wen, whom I mentioned to you before. Xiao Zhan introduced recommendation. We still need to assess your situation, one of the board members stated. Xiao, release your martial spirit, Xiao Zhan instructed. Yes, Su Wen summoned his martial spirit, and at the same time, 2 spirit rings, one yellow and one purple, slowly rose from under his feet. Seeing Su Wen's second spirit ring shimmering with purple light, each of the 3 board members showed expressions of astonishment. To absorb a 1,000-year-old spirit ring at the second rank, your luck is extraordinary, one of the board members remarked. 1,000-year spirit ring. During Xiaozan's explanation to the three board members, he explained that Su Wen fortuitously consumed some treasures, which led to the evolution of both his martial spirit and physical qualities. Additionally, he was unable to determine the age of the hunted phantom fox due to the unexpected circumstances. In the end, Su Wen's successful absorption was a stroke of luck, facilitated by the previous evolution of his physical qualities and his strong willpower. Overall, it was all a matter of luck. Under fortuitous circumstances, he managed to absorb the spirit ring despite his lower rank. Such a situation is extremely rare for ordinary spirit masters, and some may never encounter it in their lifetime. However, in the history of spirit master development, such occurrences have indeed been recorded. Nevertheless, even with this knowledge, it's still impossible to replicate because no one knows the specific enhancement direction. It only involves a simple enhancement of the spirit master's physical qualities. To increase the limit by 300 years and surpass the year bottleneck, the resources required would be immense. Even if 1,000 replication were possible, it would not be worth it. A single 1,000-year spirit ring at the second rank is not as valuable as using these numerous opportunities to assist him in advancing to Spirit King sooner and obtaining a 10,000-year spirit ring. After all, those who truly have such resources are inevitably the titled Douluo, and a 1,000-year spirit skill is not very effective at the 9th rank too. However, Su Wen's theory of absorbing spirit rings beyond his rank has pointed out a direction. Strengthening the meridians. Throughout the history of the Spirit Master world, there have been attempts to enhance the channels that supply soul power circulation, thereby increasing the resistance to the immense soul power impact in spirit rings of higher rank levels. They just haven't named the meridians. The importance of Su Wen's theory lies in the effective direction it provides for strengthening the meridians. It's neither about his external skills nor his internal skills, nor does it involve the idea of combining both. Su Wen has not yet grown up, and he has no intention of revealing the secret of his rise to the public. He can benefit the Spirit Master world, but only under the condition that he himself will not be affected. The direction given in the theory is that he felt the points where the spirit ring had the strongest impact on the meridians in the body during his experience of absorbing 2 spirit rings. Furthermore, he painted a big picture, presenting a theory that different spirit masters receive soul power impacts from absorbing spirit rings at different nodes. The theory tentatively speculates that this is related to the difference in martial spirits and the types of spirit rings absorbed. In other words, this theory is a linked theory, and Su Wen can continue to delve deeper into it, contributing to Spirit Hall. In the past, without this guiding direction, the Spirit Master world would have had to experiment to research the absorption of spirit rings beyond one's level, which would have been very costly. Even the Spirit Hall would not have been able to afford such research. But since the method doesn't require a lot of money and can still be researched, this project can naturally proceed. This is the significance of Su Wen's theory. Returning to the main topic. Havendao Imperial Academy's Board of Education. After examining Su Wen's martial spirit, spirit rings, and soul power level, the 3 Board of Education members also gave Xiaozan face and approved Su Wen's admission application. Su Wen can study and practice under your name, Xiaozan. But we have one request, one of the board members said. Please go ahead, esteemed board members, Xiaozan replied respectfully. Su Wen should join the Havendao Imperial team led by Qin Ming. Although the team is currently full, we can allow Su Wen to join as a substitute, Principal Meng Shenji stated. Upon hearing Meng Shenji's request, Xiaozan frowned. The Emperor team under Qin Ming's command, if Su Wen joins, it will surely be as a substitute. However, Xiaozan quickly understood and relaxed his frown, then readily agreed to Meng Shenji's request. This is not just a request, I also need to thank the 3 esteemed board members for their guidance on behalf of Xiaoan, he added. As the face of the academy, the treatment that the team participating in the Spirit Master Grand Tournament could enjoy would naturally be different. Su Wen's inclusion as a substitute would undoubtedly provide him with more opportunities for development. After leaving the education board, Xiaozan accompanied Su Wen to complete the enrollment procedures. With the approval of the 3 board members, your procedures are straightforward, Xiaozan remarked. I just didn't expect Meng Shenji to propose that you join the Havendao Emperor team. Su Wen felt grateful once again for Meng Shenji's support. To be directly arranged into the Havendao Emperor team was unexpected. The 3 education board members have long wanted to reform the atmosphere of the academy. This year's Emperor team is particularly focused on cultivation, gathering talents in all aspects of offense, control, defense, agility, and support needed for a complete team. They aim to showcase their abilities in the next Spirit Master Grand Tournament and change the external perception of the Academy, Xiaozan explained, showing his keen insight. Having you joining the team is probably to consider the future, aiming to develop you into the core of the team for the next tournament, he added. With 2 tournaments worth of advanced training, as long as nothing unexpected happens, Su Wen could undoubtedly stabilize the Academy's ranking in the following Spirit Master Grand Tournament. The performance in 2 tournaments, combined with the time span involved, is enough to change most people's perception of the Heaven Dao Royal Academy. Xiaoan, I'll give you 3 days to rest, and after that, you'll follow me for training, Xiaozan said. Uncle Zan, there's no need to wait for 3 days. I can start tomorrow, Su Wen replied. Alright, Su Wen was also looking forward to Xiaozan's guidance. The 3 education board members directly arranged for Su Wen to join the Emperor team as the core for the tournament. Yet, Su Wen was only a book martial spirit. This was different from the views held by everyone Su Wen had encountered before. And to have the 3 education board members overlook Su Wen's flaw of having a book martial spirit and aim to develop him into an outstanding battle spirit master for the tournament could only be attributed to Xiaozan. Su Wen inexplicably began to look forward to Xiaozan's guidance. It's time to abandon the path of relying on books as weapons and embark on the path of a mage. 10. If you want to read 20 chapters ahead, check out patreon.com/JohanLT. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 28, I Never Said I Was a Mage. The dormitory of the Heaven Dao Imperial Academy is excellent. Su Wen lived in a single spacious room that's hundreds of square meters in size, and there is also a practice room for meditation. Of course, under normal circumstances, Su Wen may not practice in the practice room. After all, it's just a practice room, not a simulated practice environment. At least, before I develop the visualization method and normalize the practice effect of the simulated environment, this practice room will be of no use. However, is the visualization method easy to develop? Su Wen had some hesitation before obtaining the second spirit ring, stimulating his own spiritual power with a spiritual attribute spirit ring, and opening up the sea of consciousness. This was his plan when he was still in New Moon Village, and it was also necessary preparation for his research on the visualization method. However, after obtaining the second spirit ring and mastering the second spirit skill, Su Wen felt much more at ease. Although the spirit skill only controls the external world's elemental energy, when combined with my exceptionally strong perception talent, it allows me to expand my innate talent from not only controlling internal conditions but also controlling the sea of consciousness. Su Wen's talents are something he can develop. This is also true for his perception of the martial spirit space. Spirit skills are all meant for development. This is Su Wen's most profound view on martial spirit cultivation in the Douluo continent. Regardless of the type of spirit skill, they all essentially provide a foundation for spirit masters. Starting from this foundation, one can develop many original spirit skills, thus forming their own system. This is the correct way to use spirit skills. Rather than blindly releasing spirit skills, it's better to have one spirit skill as a core, constructing a combat system that suits oneself. Of course, if the systems developed from the 9 spirit skills can organically combine and develop into a combat system unique to the spirit master, it would be even better. Take Su Wen's second spirit skill, for example. It can utilize the slight affinity for both wind and fire elements possessed by the martial spirit absorbed during the spirit ring absorption process, leading to the derivative ability to control both wind and fire elements. In the subsequent Uncle Zan, well, it seems like you're in good shape. Xiaozan is quite satisfied with Su Wen's condition. I want to first understand your level of control over the 2 elements. The so-called control over elements does not mean having absolute control over the corresponding elemental forces. More accurately, it should be termed mastery. It involves having the ability to mobilize and transform the respective elemental forces. The heavenly book appeared, and 2 spirit rings, one yellow and one purple, rose from the ground beneath Su Wen's feet, with a second spirit ring shimmering with purple light. My second spirit skill still relies on the martial spirit as a medium to manipulate the elemental forces, begin to rise. This is the result of external elemental energy being converted into fire attributes and stimulated under Su Wen's soul power. Well, as Old Bai said, your control over the fire element relies on the manipulation of external elemental forces through spiritual power. Just now, Su Wen expended spiritual power and soul power to use the spirit skill, triggering a small amount of external elemental energy to release flames. Your control over the fire element, like this, has its advantages and disadvantages. The advantage is that you can call upon external elemental energy to transform into flames. However, the disadvantages also vary. These flames, not being transformed by your own power, are difficult to control freely. While pointing out the pros and cons of Su Wen's method of fire element control, Xiao Zhan is also demonstrating it firsthand. A flame appeared out of thin air in his palm. Su Wen can sense that it is a flame generated by Xiao Zhan's soul power. Flames directly transformed by soul power are much easier to control. The flame in Xiao Zhan's hand transformed into various shapes, sometimes a fireball, sometimes a sword flame, and even finally compressing into a massive flame, condensing into. Su Wen marveled. Although Su Wen marveled, he has also envisioned completely digesting the power of the martial spirit. He hasn't made any progress so far. While your control over the fire element has its advantages, based on your current mastery of this spirit skill, you still cannot fully utilize the spiritual power and soul power you expend. Using the spirit skill, consume spiritual power and soul power, in exchange for the ability to simply manipulate the elemental energy of the outside world. Is it possible to maximize this ability during this period and minimize the consumption? Transform more flames with the least possible consumption. Xiao Zhan sets a goal for Su Wen for the next few months. For the next 3 months, your task is to continuously use this spirit skill, constantly improving the quantity of flames you can transform under the same amount of soul power consumption, no matter the quality or quantity of the flames, he added. Quality refers to the temperature and explosiveness of the flames. Quantity, on the other hand, refers to the coverage area of the flames. Yes, Su Wen responded. Instead of directly training, he inquired about the technique Xiao Zhan used to perform the spirit skill without using his martial spirit or spirit ring. Ha, you've observed very carefully. This is a technique that Old Bai and I developed, using the inclusiveness of the book to internalize the mastered spirit skill and turn it into our own strength. With that, Xiao Zhan began his demonstration. Terrifying soul power erupted from beneath him, bursting with immense force, accompanied by explosions of flames that generated terrifying propulsion, turning him into a blur. Xiao Zhan was engulfed in terrifying, explosive flames all over his body. The flames converged and rotated above his right fist, then suddenly blasted out with the momentum of a forward charge. Boom! A piercing hole surrounded by flames appeared on the trunk of a tree 20 meters away. Explosive steps combined with 8 extremities collapse. Su Wen gasped in disbelief. Recalling Xiao Zhan's demonstration just now, along with a complete change in his demeanor and Xiao Zhan's straightforward personality, Su Wen felt a pang of headache. It seems Uncle Zhan isn't a mage? No, considering his means of manipulating flames, which can also be used for long-range attacks, one might even call him a melee mage. I just demonstrated 3 major spirit skills, but I didn't need to release my martial spirit or spirit ring. And no one will see the spirit ring flashing before I attack. Xiao Zhan expressed satisfaction with Su Wen's reaction. Yes, being shocked is the appropriate reaction. This is a technique developed jointly by Old Bai and me, but only I have mastered it, and I can only master it because of the abilities of my martial spirit's true form. Martial spirit's true form. If you want to read 20 chapters ahead, check out patreon.com/JohanLT. Chapter 29, Spirit Fusion Method. Xiao Zhan is a strong individual at the Spirit Saint level. The strength of a Spirit Master undergoes a qualitative change at several stages. Among them, the Spirit Elder stage is significant, marking a substantial bottleneck and the first note for a 1,000-year Spirit Ring. Next is the Spirit King, marking the first note for a 10,000-year Spirit Ring. Additionally, due to the soul resonance of the 10,000-year Spirit Ring, Spirit King level experts, after absorbing the 10,000-year Spirit Ring, surpassing spirit ancestors significantly in spiritual willpower. Moving forward, the true qualitative change can be said to occur at the Spirit Saint level. Regardless of the origin of the 7th Spirit Ring from any spirit beast, the martial spirit's true form ability will be obtained. The final stage of Spirit Master cultivation is the title Douluo. There is a vast difference in each level of title Douluo, especially after level 95. The manifestation of the martial spirit's true form varies for different martial spirit masters. When a beast martial spirit master manifests a martial spirit's true form, they will undergo a beastly transformation, as if truly embodying the martial spirit. There will be a qualitative leap in physical strength and other aspects, and the power of spirit skills will increase while consumption decreases. Although Su Wen had not reached this level, Xiaozan was still explaining these things. In his view, Su Wen was into theoretical research, so there was no problem with him knowing this information in advance. As for the spirit masters with tool martial spirits, most of them seem to integrate with their tool martial spirits as if they were one entity. The martial spirit undergoes significant strengthening, and the amplification of spirit skills is stronger than that of beast martial spirit's true form, while consumption is also lower. Su Wen nodded. He actually knew all of this but still listened carefully to Xiaozan's explanation. Different people have different insights, especially since Xiaozan himself is a spirit saint. With direct experience, his descriptions are more detailed. The technique that Old Bai and I developed is actually based on the different manifestations of the martial spirit's true form. Why can beast martial spirit masters transform into beastly forms with their martial spirit's true form, but why can't tool martial spirit masters transform into tool forms? Even if they can't take on the appearance of the martial spirit, what if the martial spirit integrates into the body, especially for someone like me, who is not a spirit master who treats their tool martial spirit as a real weapon? My allow martial spirit to merge into my body would make it more convenient to use spirit skills and fight. Su Wen suddenly realized, understanding the source of Xiaozan's technique of not releasing the martial spirit to use spirit skills. Of course, this is just the inspiration for this technique. The real development of this technique actually relies on another aspect of theory. After all, relying on the martial spirit's true form for spirit saints and above is considered a trump card, with huge consumption, and it's not feasible to use it as a regular means. Xiaozan hadn't continued his explanation, but Su Wen had already had some enlightenment. Uncle Zan, your technique relies on the fusion between the martial spirit and the spirit master, right? Huh? Xiaozan was momentarily surprised that Su Wen would answer. He then showed an admiring expression and said, exactly, it seems that your research on martial spirit cultivation is truly profound. Xiaozan had only learned from Bai Yuan that Su Wen had considerable insights into martial spirit cultivation. However, he didn't expect that by merely mentioning the source of his inspiration and demonstrating its effects, Su Wen would guess the theoretical basis behind it. The cultivation of a spirit master is essentially a continuous process of fusion between the martial spirit and the spirit master. The spirit saint stage is the first stage of that transformation, where the fusion between the martial spirit and the spirit master is greatly enhanced due to the existence of the martial spirit's true form. Even without using the martial spirit's true form, the fusion is sufficient to significantly improve the spirit master's strength. This emphasizes the importance of the fusion between the martial spirit and the spirit master. According to the information from the Spirit Hall, in the later stages of title Douluo cultivation, the accumulation of soul power is not a barrier, rather, the advancement of soul power levels depends on the degree of fusion. The original work has this setting, but it seems like it was forgotten while writing. So, Uncle Zan, you rely on the high degree of fusion between yourself and your martial spirit to achieve this technique, is that right? Xiaozan nodded and said, that's right, I've named it the spirit fusion method. It was evident that he was proud. In fact, many spirit masters have attempted this before. After all, the Spirit Hall is not lacking in theoretical scholars. However, they have not developed the spirit fusion method. Xiaozan shook his head and continued, it was just a stroke of luck for me, coupled with the special tolerance of the book martial spirit, that I successfully mastered the spirit fusion method. The tolerance of the book martial spirit, Su Wen murmured, pondering the meaning of Xiaozan's mentioned tolerance. Yes, Xiaozan looked at Su Wen's puzzled expression and smiled. It seems you still don't understand. Your understanding of martial spirit cultivation is profound, but it seems you lack some understanding of your own martial spirit. A book is the carrier of knowledge, able to record all things, record. Su Wen vaguely understood what Xiaozan meant by tolerance. The so-called tolerance refers to the recording characteristic of the book. The fusion of the martial spirit and spirit master is not just superficial, it is a complete fusion. The characteristics of the martial spirit will gradually integrate into the spirit master. Su Wen nodded, having roughly understood the principle of the spirit fusion method by now. Xiao Zhan continued to explain, the spirit fusion method is about triggering this characteristic, accommodating the martial spirit's spirit ring, which is to record it. In fact, it boils down to mastering spirit skills completely. By using the characteristics of the book Martial Spirit to record spirit skills, one can have near instinctive control over them, Su Wen thought to himself. If spirit skills can be recorded, what about creating one's own spirit skills? Su Wen's thoughts quickly began to diverge. Seeing Su Wen pondering, Xiao Zhan also asked about Su Wen's doubts and, upon learning what he was thinking, smiled. As long as it can be accommodated, then it's possible. So, the book Martial Spirit has so many benefits, Su Wen also exclaimed. Books are indeed extraordinary. Books are the carriers of knowledge, how can they be ordinary? It's just that I haven't fully utilized the characteristics of the book before. Su Wen's thought is martial spirit gained the wise characteristic after absorbing the first spirit ring, but now it seems to be just another characteristic of the book. Recording is also an important ability of the book. In the future development of the martial spirit, this characteristic needs to be explored. Su Wen felt that recording was closer to the essence of the book. Well, unless unexpectedly, it's impossible to successfully cultivate the spirit fusion method before reaching spirit saint, so you don't need to delve too deeply into it, Xiao Zhan said. Of course, now you can start preparing. To record spirit skills, you still need to have a deeper mastery of them. Returning to the current training plan, Su Wen needs to refine his understanding of spirit skills. However, Su Wen did not directly give up on the spirit fusion method because of what Xiao Zhan said. Unless unexpectedly? But in this world, everything could be unexpected. I have an extremely strong perception, even extending it to sense the faint martial spirit space. Perhaps, this is the process of merging with a martial spirit. If that's the case, then undoubtedly, Su Wen's fusion with his own martial spirit is already quite high. In that case, I might still have the possibility of practicing the spirit fusion method. If you want to read 20 chapters ahead, check out patreon.com/JohanLT. Chapter 30, Practice with Xiao Zhan. Even though Su Wen felt hopeful about learning the spirit fusion method ahead of schedule, he didn't feel overly eager. After all, the foundation of the spirit fusion method still relied on mastering one's own spirit skills. My talent only makes me slightly superior in controlling my own physical body and perceiving the martial spirit space more easily, rather than directly controlling spirit skills. At most, Su Wen's talent could help him better and faster master his own spirit skills. Uncle, let's begin. Although it is repeated practice, it is always more convenient to have the guidance of other people's experience in the direction of improvement and the application of the spirit skills. The best way to master a spirit skill is to use it. And at this moment, Su Wen was learning Xiao Uncle's fire demon tactics. Your physique is stronger than that of a spirit master of the same level in the attack department, which saves quite a bit of trouble. After examining Su Wen's physical condition, Xiao Uncle was briefly shocked, but soon felt like there wasn't much of a problem. He was almost getting used to it. Now that your physique meets the standard, you can try practicing Flame Fist. Once you can control the flames attached to your fists without harming yourself, you can continue to compress the flames, creating more explosive flames, increasing damage, and eventually compressing the flames to hit the enemy while also causing an explosion. One Flame Fist, Uncle Xiao's self-created spirit skill too. Although it seemed ordinary in its manifestation, it was ultimately a self-created spirit skill with extremely high growth potential. It wouldn't be restricted by the age limit of spirit rings. As the technique gradually improved, the eruptive power would always keep up with the pace of a spirit master's cultivation. Unlike spirit ring spirit skills, which rarely remain effective regardless of a spirit master's level, especially for 100-year spirit skills and lower. Even if it's an enhancement skill, it often decreases with each advancement in rank. The truly exceptional are percentage increase spirit skills that can consistently maintain the same proportionate increase alongside the spirit master's level progression. Of course, being exceptional isn't solely the credit of spirit rings or spirit skills. The cultivation and mastery development of the spirit master themselves are also crucial. Wen has a certain level of control over the spiritual energy of the world that is transformed into flames. A brilliant purple book floated quietly in front of Su Wen's chest. Then, a flame rose out of thin air and gradually transferred to Su Wen's right hand. Resist the flames. At the same time, Su Wen was also channeling his soul power to resist the damage of the flames to his right hand. With his strong perception, he found the process of mastering this technique exceptionally smooth. However, even so, it still took him a full 2 hours to stabilize the flames on. To be effective in combat, Flame Fist must at least be practiced to the point of compressing the flames to generate explosive damage. Su Wen realized he clearly has a long way to go. The flames need to merge into my hand, even completely assimilating with my right fist, to truly be considered attached. This step still requires further exploration. Another 2 hours passed. Su Wen, with soul power shielding his right hand, is now able to make the fist come into full contact with the flames. The morning passed by. Instead of continuing to practice attachment techniques, upon Uncle Zio's suggestion, Su Wen began practicing compressing the flames. His control over the flames exceeded Uncle Zio's expectations. Old Bai mentioned to have such strong control over the uncle. Perhaps it's because my spirit skill integrates my spiritual power into the spiritual energy of the world. Su Wen offered a reason to deflect. That could be. Uncle Zio didn't delve further into Su Wen's explanation of his fire element control spirit skill. As long as he could manipulate the flames, that was a good thing. Compressing the flames also requires technique, and the change in flame intensity can also be achieved through soul power. Under Uncle Zio's guidance, Su Wen began practicing the strengthening and compression of the flames. 4 hours later. Alright, let's call it a day for today. You can practice in the library of the Academy tonight. The resources in the library of the Heaven Dao Imperial Academy may not be as good as those in the Saint Spirit Hall, but in terms of breadth and environment, they are better. In short, the library here provides greater benefits for the cultivation of book martial spirit masters. Will that really make a difference? Uncle Zio nodded and said, it's natural. For book martial spirits, a training environment that mimics the characteristics of books is more conducive and can increase your cultivation speed. Especially since the Academy's library contains various miscellaneous books and some useless materials. Saint Spirit Hall wouldn't store such random books in their archive, would they? On the contrary, the Heaven Dao Imperial Academy's library provided some entertainment for the students with these miscellaneous books. Su Wen nodded. So that's how it is. With more types and quantity of books, the effect of mimicry will be better. Oh, by the way, Uncle Zon, didn't I need to join the Academy's combat team? When should I report for duty? Su Wen remembered his official business. It can be said that Su Wen's most direct purpose in joining the Heaven Dao Royal Academy is to get close to Doulou Yan, and thereby get in touch with Douluo, in order to obtain the immortal grass within Douluo's ice and fire twin eyes. The Emperor Combat Team, Zio Zan said, Teacher Qin Ming, who is in charge of the team, has just finished training. Currently, neither the team members nor Teacher Qin Ming are in the academy. It will take about a week for them to return. I'll take you to report to Qin Ming when they come back. Speaking of Qin Ming, Zio Zan also showed his admiration for him. Qin Ming is exceptionally talented. His martial spirit is a mutated Inferno Grey Wolf. He joined the Heaven Dao Imperial Academy 5 years ago. At that time, only 22 years old, he had already broken through to level 50 and obtained his 5th spirit ring, becoming a true spirit king. Unfortunately, the 5th spirit ring is only 9,000 years old. Although he is not among the top 3 in the Spirit Hall records, he is still in a very prominent position. Even though the 5th spirit ring is not 10,000 years old, under the Academy's strong cultivation, Qin Ming's cultivation speed has actually been faster. Now, after 5 years and with many aids, he has reached level 59. With a possibility of breaking through to level 60 at any time. Once he breaks through and absorbs the 6th spirit ring, he will become a spirit emperor. And if he can achieve this breakthrough within 2 years, he will be one of the top 3 youngest spirit emperors among the talented spirit masters recorded in the Spirit Hall. Meng Shenji had also said that once Qin Ming breaks through, he would personally hunt down the most suitable 1,000-year-old spirit ring for him. I will be responsible for guiding your practice in controlling the element fire. As for soul power cultivation, you should listen to Qin Ming, Zio Zan said. Su Wen nodded without expressing any opinion. The Academy provides significant support for your training, and there's a specially prepared nutritious meal for dinner. If you want to read 20 chapters ahead, check out patreon.com/JohanLT. Chapter 31, Spirit Impersonation Method. Special nutritious meals. Su Wen only knew it was a special meal prepared by the Academy for Spirit Masters after hearing Zio Zan's explanation. Among them were foods made with spirit skills, with their energy being gentler and easier for spirit masters to digest. It's similar to old Jerry's sweet potato, isn't it? Su Wen thought to himself. However, upon closer comparison, there were some differences. Although both aimed at quickly integrating nutrition into spirit masters, old Jerry's sweet potato was supplementary in nature, while the Academy's nutritious meals were exploratory in nature. To put it simply, old Jerry's sweet potato was used for better recovery after spirit masters expended a lot of energy, while the Academy's nutritious meals could be easily absorbed by spirit masters after consumption and can even increase soul power. Old Jerry's little sweet potato had a promoting effect on Su Wen's cultivation, not solely due to the sweet potato itself, but because it complemented external strength training. Moreover, due to the relationship between external strength and internal strength, a chain reaction occurred, thereby achieving the effect of promoting cultivation. After experiencing the nutritious meal and feeling the rich and gentle energy continuously integrating autonomously into his body, Su Wen made a judgment: if I have the assistance of the nutritious meal, along with old Jerry's little sweet potato, I estimate that my cultivation speed will be about 30% faster than normal. His calculations had always kept pace with the times. During his time in New Moon Village, with dual cultivation of internal cultivation and external training plus the assistance of the little sweet potato, his cultivation was already 50% faster than conventional methods. Without the little sweet potato, it was 30% faster. Now, he considered dual cultivation along with internal and external training without relying on external aids as normal cultivation. With this foundation, the little sweet potato and the nutritious should meal speed provide him with an additional 30% increase in cultivation speed. Of course, food spirit masters capable of producing such spirit skill-infused food were highly sought after. They would be honored guests in any faction. And there's the library. After finishing his meal, Su Wen roughly assessed the effects of the nutritious meal and then headed towards the library. Adding the effect of mimetic cultivation into the calculation was something Su Wen didn't even dare to think about. In that case, his cultivation speed would far surpass that of spirit masters with equivalent spiritual power and martial spirit quality. This gap would be at least doubled. If compared only to ordinary spirit masters with equivalent martial spirit quality, the difference would be even greater. It could be said that, under these conditions, Su Wen's cultivation speed would be no less than that of any genius. Of course, cheater don't count. There's still room for improvement in external strength and internal strength, and the efficiency of mimetic cultivation can also be enhanced. Mimetic cultivation, in the end, is just simulation. The fundamental principles behind it have not yet been fully. Su Wen's envisioned method for development will not only replicate the training effects of the mimetic environment, but by replicating the mimetic environment and breaking free from its constraints, the envisioned method can continue to improve. Of the entire library, this area is still the most suitable for me. Su Wen frowned as he arrived at the miscellaneous books section. He didn't quite understand why his martial spirit was most active and his cultivation efficiency fastest here. But it worked out well enough. The miscellaneous books provide greater support for my martial spirit cultivation. So, the effect of mimetic cultivation in the Academy's library are even better than when I practiced in the Saint Spirit Hall library, sitting cross-legged in the best position he could feel, then began to refine the gentle energy within his body. Food spirit masters are quite unique, actually converting half of the heaven and earth essence into easily digested energy. With the experience of the little sweet potato, the current experience of the nutritious meal, and the heightened perception he gained from acquiring the second spirit skill, Su Wen had gained a preliminary understanding of the energy in the food made by martial spirit masters. The so-called food spirit master actually activates spirit skills, using heaven and earth energy as ingredients to produce food with special effects. He unconsciously let his thoughts flow as he began to contemplate refining the new knowledge he had discovered. No, it should be that only a small portion of food spirit masters possess such special spirit skills. The ability to transform heaven and earth energy and refine it into food is also rare food spirit skills. Most food-based spirit skills use the soul power of spirit masters as ingredients, imbuing them with soul power characteristics to achieve various effects. Food produced by rare food-based spirit skills that can transform heaven and earth energy, if their characteristics also align, are excellent spirit skills that can assist other spirit masters in their cultivation. On the other hand, most food-based spirit skills that rely on soul power are commonplace. Although they also have miraculous effects, they ultimately fall short in comparison. Of course, whether or not they possess top-tier food-based spirit skills, Every food spirit master is highly sought after. Su Wen was merely assessing them based on their potential benefits to other spirit masters' cultivation. The new knowledge was rapidly refined by Su Wen, reasoned through in a scientific manner. It seems like my thoughts are flowing more smoothly. Su Wen's soul power continued to circulate within him. He had long completed the cultivation of internal strength, so even while distracted by thoughts, he could instinctively operate his soul power. During mimetic cultivation, it seems like my thoughts are also being enhanced. It wasn't the effect of the mimetic cultivation on his brain, but rather the strengthening effect it had on his book martial spirit. Knowledge. Books carry knowledge, they record it, and they provide access to it. Moreover, Su Wen discovered that not only did his thinking become more fluid and agile in this state, but he also gained a cultivation enhancement buff. By diverting his attention to contemplation, he found that his cultivation actually progressed faster. Perhaps, this could be considered a unique form of mimetic cultivation, or more accurately, within the mimetic cultivation environment, closely adhering to the martial spirit and embodying its characteristic roles is also part of mimetic cultivation. Mimetic cultivation doesn't just mean adapting to the environment, but also adapting to the martial spirit, impersonation method. Su Wen began to contemplate. He wasn't just reasoning out new knowledge, he was also testing whether the process of learning and accepting new knowledge would yield any additional benefits. It worked. He then attempted pure contemplation. While the quantity and depth of knowledge didn't increase, Su Wen continued to think. There's some effect, but not much. Through repeated attempts, Su Wen summarized the scope of the impersonation method in mimetic cultivation. In that case, it's not good news for me. Learning is endless, but there are times when Su Wen hits a mental block. His learning pace is too rapid. For the first time, he felt that learning quickly wasn't as wonderful as it seemed. Let's try reviewing old knowledge to gain new insights is also a way to acquire knowledge. If you want to read 20 chapters ahead, check out patreon.com/JohanLT. Chapter 32, A New Stage. Reflecting on what he had learned, Su Wen continuously adjusted his state, feeling the changes in the effectiveness of his cultivation. It had to be said that the super keen perception had great benefits for Su Wen's cultivation. Although it didn't show much in direct strength, it had extraordinary auxiliary effects on Su Wen's cultivation research. Opening his eyes, Su Wen exhaled. Fortunately, as long as I am truly reviewing well, the gained buffs can reach their optimum. Even if there was no new knowledge gained through reviewing, it was still a serious contemplation, a deep understanding of the knowledge he had learned before. Books are records. Records are meant to prevent loss of knowledge. Therefore, reviewing itself also embodies the characteristics of a martial spirit. Su Wen felt that his understanding of playing the role of a book was becoming increasingly thorough. There were direct indicators, with cultivation speed requirements pushing him from behind. While completing tasks, Su Wen was also contemplating and searching for new theories. Maybe one day he would have a breakthrough and establish some helpful theories for cultivation. Feeling the efficiency of cultivation was not so easy. Even with Su Wen's strong perception, it still took some serious practice for a period of time to see the results. The process of initially exploring many techniques while role-playing as a book lasted for 3 full days. During these 3 days, Su Wen practiced Flame Fist with Xiaozan during the day and internal strength at night. As for external practice, it was interspersed within the process of practicing Flame Fist during the day. On the 6th day at the Heaven Dao Imperial Academy, Su Wen exclaimed, "Old Jerry's little sweet potatoes has finally arrived." Su Wen missed the taste of the little sweet potatoes too much. Although I've been faster in my overall cultivation speed these past few months without using little sweet potatoes, it still felt like something was missing. Bringing the little sweet potatoes back to the dormitory, Su Wen went through Old Jerry's letter, which also brought a pleasant surprise. The monkey wine worked wonders for Old Jerry. Initially, he had mailed 20 caddies of monkey wine to Old Jerry. Now, 3 months had passed, and Old Jerry had directly advanced by 1 level. Advancing 1 level in 3 months, still at the Spirit Master stage, for someone of Su Wen's age would be considered genius, but for someone of Old Jerry's age were still growing, physical growth would drive the advancement of spiritual power and even soul power. Moreover, the difficulty of cultivation would be much lower because everything was still not fully formed. But Old Jerry was already old. Even so, achieving a breakthrough of 1 level in 3 months showed the effectiveness of the monkey wine on him. Old Jerry obtained his first spirit ring a year ago, and his soul power directly reached level 12. In the following year, he advanced by 2 levels in the first 9 months and by 1 level in the last 3 months, now standing at level 15 as a Spirit Master. Ascending 3 levels in a year is already a very commendable speed. This is just the result of old Jerry becoming proficient in the techniques he taught him. Not every Spirit Master possesses Su Wen's talent to quickly grasp internal strength. Many meridian circulations are involved in internal strength, requiring not only knowledge of their locations but also exploration. Even if the techniques are taught, they usually only give rough positions, and learners need to try themselves to find the corresponding meridians within their bodies. Initially, when old Jerry broke through, he merely completed 1 cycle, forming the main circulation loop, without mastering the operation of other parts of the meridians. It was with the assistance of monkey wine that old Jerry thoroughly mastered the internal strength technique left by Su Wen. The speed of advancing 3 levels in a year is likely to be maintained. If so, old Jerry might have hopes of breaking through to level 20 within 2 years. Su Wen marked with emotion, feeling happy for the old man. Uncle Zan, where are we practicing today? Xiao Zan looked at Su Wen, who was eager to learn, feeling somewhat helpless. Xiao, your talent has exceeded my expectations. I've already taught you all the techniques I can, he said with a bitter smile. Su Wen's learning ability was indeed remarkable, especially when it came to soul power manipulation techniques or flame control. Su Wen could grasp them quickly. What you need now is continuous repetitive training to make all of this become instinctual. Su Wen had already mastered the technique of flame fist, integrating flames into his fists completely. Now, he just needed to engrave it into 5. Not only flame fist but many of Xiao Zan's self-created spirit skills relied on compressing and bursting flames, fully exploiting the explosive nature of the flames while continuously compressing them to generate explosive damage. The difference lies not in flame fist itself, but in the method and techniques used to utilize these continuously compressed exploding flames. Rather than saying flame fist is his original spirit skill, it's more accurate to say that the entire system of compressing and bursting flames, along with the associated application techniques, is his original spirit skill. It's a system. I'm also practicing the technique of flame compression simultaneously, but I haven't been able to combine compression and integration yet, Su Wen said, puzzled to elevate your natural affinity for flames in this acquired form. Or in the future, you could obtain spirit rings with fire attributes, Xiao Zan explained. Su Wen's mouth twitched. So, it all boils down to his body's endurance capacity. Continuously compress the flames, use the resulting explosiveness, and then unleash even greater power. But, to be honest, Xiao Zan might have developed it to the point where it could still be his trump card even at the Spirit Saint level. Of course, besides controlling flames, you also have control over wind elements. Xiao Zan didn't forget Su Wen's second spirit skill's control over another element. He stroked his chin and continued, I can't teach you much about controlling wind elements, but you can't neglect it either. He stumbled upon the path of fire element control by chance, and he also tried to add other elements for assistance afterward but failed. To minimize the loss caused by the failure to affinity acquire for other elements, his fifth spirit ring is a spirit beast with attributes of both wind and fire. However, he only succeeded in enhancing his affinity for the fire element and gained the fire demon overlord body from his fifth spirit ring. Of course, it was also the fire demon overlord body from the fifth spirit ring that gradually led him away from the path of a pure mage. Wind aids fire, and fire takes advantage of the wind. These two elements complement each other, and if they can be developed together, their power will undoubtedly be even more formidable. 3. He always had expectations for the development of the wind element. If everything goes as expected, developing the ability to fly with the control of the wind element should be too difficult for me. If you want to read 20 chapters ahead, check out patreon.com/JohanLT. Chapter 33, Xiao Zan's Advice. The wind element. Su Wen began to explore the ability to control the wind element and found it to be different from controlling the fire element. There was quite a gap between them. Xiao, your control over the wind element is higher, and practicing with it is easier, not necessarily because of your spirit skill itself. Xiao Zan also clarified Su Wen's doubts. Your martial spirit is ultimately a book martial spirit. Books are restrained by the fire element, Su Wen indicating understanding. Being able to gain a certain degree of affinity with the fire element under the tempering of the spirit ring of the three-eyed phantom fox is probably also due to the strengthening of his martial spirit by his first spirit ring 1. Otherwise, Even though the three-eyed phantom fox has a fire attribute, it would be difficult to remodel his martial spirit and give it an affinity with the fire element. The wind element on the other hand is not so difficult. The spirit ring's transformation of the martial spirit is more thorough, and the affinity is higher. My suggestion is for you to first train your control over the wind element and the compression and bursting of flames. As for integrating the flame fist and adapting oneself to a higher level of flames, Xiaozan does not recommend it. Although unable to fully unleash the power of the flame fist for the time being, this is the most cost-effective arrangement. Before overcoming the fear of flames inherent in your book martial spirit, it will be difficult for your body to improve its resistance to flames. Even flames formed by your own soul power will be difficult to adapt to, let alone those transformed by heaven and earth energy. Xiaozan shook his head. Su Wen's talent is a bit higher, and many of his teaching plans have been disrupted, temporarily forgetting this point. My suggestion is to use your next 2 spirit rings to address this issue. First, you need to overcome your martial spirit's fear of flames so that you can quickly begin training for the next stage of the flame fist. I suggest you try it when you get your 3rd spirit ring. 1. Then, obtain a spirit skill that transforms flames with soul power. Although there may be some overlap with the 2nd spirit skill, flames transformed by soul power pose less danger to spirit masters, resistance can be improved more quickly, and both spirit skills can be used simultaneously. Combining 2 transformed flames might even increase their power. 1. Even his path of the fire demon is not smooth sailing. It requires the coordination of one spirit ring after another, continuously evolving his book martial spirit to adapt to the path he is taking. Fear of flames is actually inherent to the nature of the book martial spirit. Paper fears flames, just as plant-type spirit masters fear flames. Hearing this, Su Wen naturally already had an idea. The ice and fire alchemy body. The ability to resist both fire and ice is crucial for his book martial spirit. However, Xiaozan offered another path. Energize and materialize. It is still an energy construct, not paper. In this way, it can also avoid being restrained by flames. Uncle Zan, do you possess such a spirit skill? That's right. Xiaozan coincidentally obtained such a spirit ring and successfully completed this step. But even up to now, Old Bai and I haven't out how to more stably obtain this type of spirit skill. So, if you have better ideas figured. I won't force you to follow my path. Su Wen fell into contemplation. The spirit skills bestowed by spirit rings originate from the power of the martial spirit. This is a theory Su Wen has put forward before, and he also believes in it. More accurately, the martial spirit has the potential in this regard. Only when the conditions are met and the ability is present can the corresponding spirit skill be guided out. The fundamental aspect of everything is still the martial spirit, otherwise, spirit rings are just rootless floating weeds. Now, after listening to Xiaozan's advice on the development of the book martial spirit, Su Wen felt that he has gained a deeper understanding of the role of spirit rings. Spirit rings alter the characteristics of the martial spirit after its birth. The power of the spirit ring integrates into the martial spirit and also transforms it. Initially, Su Wen's understanding of this point leaned more towards enhancing the same traits already present in the martial spirit. He overlooked the additional attributes that spirit rings impart to the martial spirit. The affinity with elements is a great example of extra effect added by a spirit ring. Even if not manifested in the form of spirit skills, spirit rings still transform the martial spirit. However, Su Wen's absorption process of spirit rings differs from that of ordinary spirit masters. His absorption is more thorough, and the transformation of the martial spirit by the spirit ring is more comprehensive. This is also why he can obtain other traits of spirit rings besides spirit skills. While others may rely on luck, he is different. He can have it all. If that's the case, then further research is needed into the process of absorbing spirit rings. If we can intervene in the transformation of the martial spirit by the spirit ring, we can finally control the direction of the transformation. Of course, this goal is definitely not achievable in the short term. Uncle Zan, I understand. I will try to reach level 30 as soon as possible and find a way to overcome my martial spirit's fear of fire. Although Xiaozan's suggestion is excellent, Su Wen chooses not to adopt it. He has a way to overcome the fear of fire, so he can still select the 3rd spirit ring according to his own ideas. However, when it comes to the specific planning of the 3rd spirit ring, Su Wen feels it necessary to rethink it. Let's start by practicing the techniques of controlling the wind element and compressing and bursting flames. In fact, there is more than just these 2 points. Su Wen's true 2nd spirit skill is control, control over the heaven and earth energy. He is also trying to develop the ability to manipulate elemental energy. For example, during cultivation, using higher external elemental energy density to stimulate the speed of soul power cultivation. Although he cannot display speed the flame fist's stronger stance, Su Wen is not discouraged. This means that in the short term, I can focus on improving my elemental abilities wholeheartedly. Su Wen has been studying techniques such as compressing and bursting flames, which can be used not only in Flame Fist. Xiao Zan's application is just due to his possession of the fifth spirit skill, Fire Demon Overlord Body, which is more suitable for close combat bursts. Wind element, fire element. In Su Wen's mind, there are many ideas waiting to be verified regarding the application of these two, of course. Before these ideas are verified, he needs to first try developing flying techniques. Air propulsion is the simplest and easiest to implement, useful for acceleration, but not suitable for regular flight. Although he says this, Su Wen shows no hesitation elements, producing powerful winds. Haha, it really works. As his feet left the ground, Su Wen breathed a sigh of relief. Very good, the initial development went smoothly. He didn't rush. Flying attempts require caution. Otherwise, falling from high altitude, while might not be fatal, could cause serious injuries, greatly affecting his cultivation rhythm. Sure enough, soon Su Wen began to experience instability in his control of the wind power, causing him to wobble. If you want to read 20 chapters ahead, check out patreon.com/JohanLT. Chapter 34, Meeting the Emperor Team. Watching the scene of Su Wen trying to fly by developing the wind element, Xiao Zan couldn't help but feel a little envious. Flying was also very difficult for him. In today's Douluo land, spirit masters of the spirit saint level cannot fly. Only those who have reached the title Douluo level can. Of course, with the explosive power of the fire attribute, Xiao Zan could briefly borrow its force and perform a second leap in the air. Under Xiao Zan's guidance, Su Wen's practice of flying skills gradually began. In the blink of an eye, it had been a week since he arrived at the Heaven Dao Imperial Academy 5. Su Wen quickly mastered the control of the wind element. Although he no longer had Xiao Zan's experienced guidance, his higher affinity with the wind element, coupled with his previous experience in developing the fire element, allowed him to catch up to his level of development with the fire element. Xiao, Qinming and the other members of the Academy's team have returned. I'll take you to report. Su Wen stopped his practice upon hearing the words and caught up with Xiao Zan. Teacher Qinming, Teacher Xiao Zan. Qinming saw Xiao Zan and didn't express any surprise. He had already received greetings from Meng Shenji when he returned to the academy. His gaze passed over Xiao Zan and landed on Su Wen. Is this Su Wen with his second ring 1,000 years old? Hello. Qinming was relatively warm. He was enthusiastic about cultivating a group of powerful Spirit Master students. It was a regret of his youth that he hadn't participated in the Spirit Master competition, so his goal was to train a group of students to participate in it and see them achieve honors in the competition. Now that Su Wen had joined, he naturally welcomed him. However, Su Wen might not catch up with the next Spirit Master competition in a few years. However, it will be the same even next time. Especially with the results of Yu Shai and Heng and the others this time, the Academy and the Emperor will only increase their efforts to train the team, and Su Wen will only be better this time. Everyone, gather around, Qinming said to the people who were training, summoning them together. Yu Shai and Heng wore a blue armor, with long black hair, not particularly handsome but exuding an indescribable aura. Du Yan had short purple hair, full of spirit, with green eyes and green nails that gave off a somewhat eerie vibe too. Apart from Yu Shai and Heng and Du Yan, there was a handsome young man with golden short hair, Yu Feng, the youth ostler, who was as beautiful as a woman in his black attire. The robust Shimo brothers, I will refer to one of the twins as Mo and the other as Mo to differentiate between them, and Yu Lingling, dressed in black with a black veil covering her face. Qinming gathered the 7 people and introduced them to Su Wen. This is Su Wen. I just mentioned to you all that he will join the team as a substitute member, Qinming said. Yu Shai and Heng and the others also noticed, bringing Xiao Zan. Su Wen over to the side. After Qinming finished introducing, they also learned about Su Wen's identity. He's so young, does he have any special skills? Being arranged directly into the Academy's team by the Board of Education at such a young age must mean he has something special. The current Heaven Dao Emperor team is completely different from before. It's a key project of the 3 members of the Board of Education, directly accountable to the Emperor of the Heaven Dao Empire. Everything is based on talent, Even the largest noble families can't push someone in if they don't meet the requirements. Su Wen, since you've joined the team, the first thing to do is to get to know your teammates, Xiao Zun spoke up. Seeing him speak, Qinming didn't interrupt. And fighting is the best way to understand each other. You can better understand their abilities, and they can better understand yours. Xiao Zun's suggestion surprised the 7 members of the Heaven Dao Emperor team. Fight with them? Can this little brother handle it? Du Yuan looked at Su Wen with great interest, feeling a hint of curiosity about this little brother. The same was true for the other 6 team members, they were all curious about Su Wen's abilities. However, it was uncertain whether Yu Lingling, who seemed to have a low profile, a cold demeanor, and an attitude of keeping strangers away, shared this curiosity. Su Wen didn't refuse. He needed to establish a connection with Du Yuan through Du Yubo. To do that, he had to get acquainted with them first, gain their attention. Otherwise, if he couldn't even strike up a conversation, all his plans would be in vain. Alright, Xianheng, you 7 plus Su Wen make 8. Xianheng, you'll be with Yan, Shimo, and Lingling in one group. Yu Feng, Osler, Shimo, and Su Wen will be in the other. Qinming divided the 8 into groups. Yu Xianheng, known for his strong offensive abilities, and Du Guyan, specializing in control techniques, were placed opposite Su Wen. This arrangement aimed to bring out Su Wen's abilities to the fullest and allow for a better observation of his skills. Of course, Qinming didn't make the battle too challenging, so he assigned Yi Lingling to Yu Xianheng's side. While as an auxiliary spirit master she had healing capabilities, she lacked combat strength. Despite the uneven numbers, 3 versus 4, the 3 could still put up a fight, especially if one of them remained in peak condition throughout the battle. This setup would provide a better platform for Su Wen to showcase his abilities too. Since Su Wen is studying under Xiao Zun, he should also be a combat-oriented spirit master. Qinming had gathered basic information about Su Wen from Meng Shenji. Although he had a book martial spirit, studying under Xiao Zun implied a path toward becoming a combat-oriented spirit master. Take some time to understand each other's abilities, Qinming instructed, actually giving Su Wen the opportunity to introduce his abilities to his 3 teammates. Yu Feng has a cheerful personality and is enthusiastic about meeting new people. He said, "Little Su Wen, what abilities do you have? Let us know so we can coordinate during the fight. I'm afraid you'll fly away by yourself during the fight." Osler interjected with a teasing tone, nudging him playfully. The two were lively in the team and often bantered with each other. "You act as if you aren't reckless yourself," Yu Feng retorted, glaring at Osler. Shimo remained silent, appearing rather gloomy. He was feeling troubled inside. He estimated that during the upcoming battle, he would have to bear all the damage by himself. My martial spirit is a book, with the first spirit skill being enhanced and the second spirit skill being control. Su Wen briefly introduced his martial spirit and spirit skills, then focused on describing his combat abilities. "If someone rushes in, I should be able to handle it to some extent. This is just a simple introduction." Su Wen's description was quite vague, making it difficult for others to accurately gauge his abilities. However, Shimo had already obtained the information he needed. He felt deeply troubled inside. It seemed he was going to be the meat shield after all. He was the only one who could withstand the damage. If you want to read 20 chapters ahead, check out patreon.com/JohanLT. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 35, First Battle Against Spirit Masters. Book Martial Spirit. Seeing Su Wen's martial spirit, Yu Feng, Osler, and Shimo were actually surprised. They didn't expect this newcomer to the team to have a book martial spirit. It should be noted that the current configuration of the Heaven Dao Imperial Academy is quite top-notch. The captain's martial spirit is the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon, known as the #1 Beast martial spirit, while the vice-captain, Du Guyan, has the Jade Phosphor Serpent martial spirit. There are also the 9-Heart Flowering Apple, Black Tortoise, Black Leopard, and Wind Chime Bird. In each field, they are all outstanding martial spirits. However, Su Wen only has a book martial spirit. It's not that they doubt the potential power of the book martial spirit. After all, Xiao Zun is right in front of them now, the one who has made a name for himself as the fire demon in the spirit master world. He's definitely a representative of the book martial spirit. After their surprise, the three of them quickly accepted this point. Since Su Wen is joining the team, he must have something outstanding. Especially since he came along with Xiao Zhan, it's highly probable that he's following the path of using the book martial spirit in battles under Xiao Zhan's guidance. Combining Su Wen's two major spirit skills, they quickly formed a preliminary impression of Su Wen. Alright, it's almost time, both sides, get ready. Qinming and Xiao Zhan watched as the two teams stood 30 meters apart from each other. The battle begins. As Qinming's voice fell, all 8 people simultaneously released their martial spirits. Except for Su Wen, the other 7 all had the best spirit ring combination of 2 yellow and 1 purple. 1,000-years-old spirit ring, the 7 members of the Heaven Dao Emperor team all noticed the color of Su Wen's spirit rings. 1 yellow and 1 purple. The second ring is a 1,000-years-old spirit ring. At this moment, they all understood why Su Wen had the qualification to join the Heaven Dao Emperor team. Although Qinming had known about Su Wen's 1,000-years-old second ring early on, seeing this extraordinary spirit ring combination still felt shocking. Rings himself for even so, Qinming was still astonished. Because such a combination is unparalleled in today's Douluo continent. After a moment of daze, the 7 official students of the Heaven Dao Imperial Academy quickly reacted. Yu Shai and Hang took a deep breath, roared angrily, and the illusion of the blue lightning tyrant dragon appeared behind him, bursting out with a dragon roar. The Shimo brothers each summoned their own martial spirits and stood at the forefront of the team, acting as the best meat shields. The rest of the team also quickly entered into the battle state. Seeing this, Qinming was quite satisfied. He didn't tell the 7 about Su Wen's situation, wanting to see if they would be shaken in this moment and reveal any weaknesses. Now it seems that they can recover from the momentary surprise, which is already very good. Even Xiao Zhan couldn't help but admire them. Although surprised by Su Wen's 1,000-years-old spirit ring, the second ring is still the second ring, and the difference in both the quantity and quality of soul power between them is huge. Even the 1,000-years-old spirit skill varies. There are differences in the spirit skills themselves, and even more differences in how they are used by spirit masters. Yu Shai and Heng adopted an aggressive tactic. Dazzling blue light emanated from his forehead, instantly spreading throughout his body. Strands of blue-purple electric current burst out like small snakes, swirling around his body. His right arm quickly swelled, the sleeve on his right side burst into ashes as it expanded, and blue-purple scales covered it, transforming his right hand into a dragon claw. His 3 spirit rings didn't hover around his body, instead, they entwined around this dragonized right arm, one standing shoulder to shoulder with Yu Shai and Heng. Shimo charged towards Su Wen's side. A snake tail appeared behind Du Yan as she darting out from the side and spewing purple poison mist. Shimo wore a bitter expression. Without hesitation, he resisted Du Yan's poison mist, enduring the discomfort caused by the toxins. Osler transformed into a black leopard, a black silhouette flashed past, already interfering with Shimo from the side. Yu Fen transformed into a wind chime bird, incredibly agile, flapping his wings lightly, then soared into the air. From a distance, he waved his wings towards Yu Shai and Heng, unleashing a series of wind blades. Su Wen manipulated the heaven and earth energy, turning it into fireballs that intersected with the wind blades, attacking Yu Shai and Heng. On the first spirit ring atop Yu Shai and Heng's right arm, a large amount of blue-purple electric current converged, forming a huge thunder dragon claw. The dragon claw swung, colliding with the wind blades and fireballs. Boom! Electric current scattered everywhere, wind blades and dispersed flames engulfed the entire central area of the battlefield, including the dragon claw. Bang! With a fierce stomp on the ground, Yu Shai and Heng had already burst out, his entire body surrounded by electric currents, blocking the dispersed wind blades and flames from harming him back, propelled by the airflow beneath his feet, moving at extreme speed. At the same time, he swung his right hand, and on the book martial spirit, pages separated and turned into flying swords, surrounded by flames. Under a gust of wind, they quickly shot forward. A large number of flaming flying swords bypassed Yu Shai and Heng and Shimo, heading towards Yi Lingling. Yanzi, protect Lingling, Yu Shai and Heng shouted. Su Wen was actually able to launch an attack against Yi Lingling despite Yu Shai and Heng and Shimo being in between. The paper swords, combined with the airflow, accurately swept past them, landing precisely behind them. Du Yan, who was about to break free from Shimo's entanglement thanks to his agility, suddenly changed her expression and rushed back to defend Yi Lingling. Yu Xianheng stomped the ground fiercely once again, moving even faster, with a blue-purple electric current on his body shining brighter. Su Wen, be careful, Yu Feng warned Su Wen. Yu Xianheng charged directly towards them. Except for Shimo, no one on their side could withstand him head-on. They absolutely couldn't afford to confront him directly. Su Wen remained calm. He mobilized all his spiritual power, continuously compressing and condensing a huge fireball in front of him. Not good, Yu Feng's expression changed. Second spirit skill, greatly increasing his speed, but Shimo moved forward to Yu Xianheng's third spirit ring flickered. Third spirit skill, leopard shadow clone, a dark energy coalesced into his likeness, attacking Shimo, thwarting his interception. While the main body continued along the optimal route for defense. Third spirit skill, Thunder's Fury, Yu Xianheng's speed skyrocketed, closing the distance in an instant, which was also the reason for Yu Feng and Osler's change in expression. The moment Su Wen intended to confront head-on, they could anticipate their captain's potential response. Sure enough, he erupted directly into his strongest state. Moreover, this instant acceleration would leave Su Wen with insufficient time to prepare. Qin Ming frowned as he watched this scene. He was actually curious to see how far Su Wen had developed his fire compression and explosive capabilities, but colliding with a spirit elder as a spirit grandmaster was not a wise choice. If you want to read 20 chapters ahead, check out patreon.com/JohanLT. Chapter 36, The Man Who Won't Retreat. Surprise double release today. I hope you enjoy it and thank you to everyone for supporting the story. 3. No matter what, forcibly colliding with a second ring spirit skill against a third ring spirit skill in a team battle is not wise. Especially when the opponent could stop holding back at any moment. Qin Ming observed this collision with anticipation. On the contrary, Xiao Zhan appeared relaxed, not finding anything wrong with Su Wen's response. As someone who personally guided Su Wen's cultivation, how could he not be aware of Su Wen's explosive power and means? Yu Xianheng quickly rushed out, not giving Su Wen any time to condense fireballs. His speed was faster, and his third spirit skill made the blue-purple lightning around his body more profound and violent as a dragon roar resounded. Boom! Su Wen smiled lightly, watching the situation on the field. When there was only a distance of 5 meters left between Yu Xianheng and himself, he didn't hesitate at all, directly pushing out a fireball in front of him. A large number of paper sheets fluttered and folded, forming a pair of huge wings attached to his back. 2-second spirit skill, Thunder Crash. As the giant fireball approached, Yu Xianheng also used his second spirit skill. Countless lightning snakes surged out from within him, converging towards the direction of the fireball and colliding with it. Boom! The clash of thunder and fire created a violent explosion. Even the ground trembled. Thunder and lightning filled the air, leaving traces on the surrounding ground. The explosion of the fireball left behind large scorch marks on the ground. As for Su Wen, at this moment, he was already being flung backward by the intense explosion. His enormous paper wings spread wide open, propelling him backward rapidly by the terrifying shockwave of the explosion. In front of him, a large amount of wind elements completely enveloped him, serving as a buffer against the high-temperature shockwave of the explosion, minimizing the damage. While cushioning the impact, it also served to isolate him, and at the same time effectively stored the impact force of the sudden shockwave. This force compressed the airflow transformed by the wind elements. After the explosion, the compressed airflow began to expand, pushing Su Wen backward. Leveraging the shockwave of the explosion, Su Wen quickly distanced himself from the core of the explosion, indeed seized the opportunity at this moment. His reaction speed was undeniably quick. At the moment when he saw Su Wen stabilize and instead move towards Yi Lingling, Osler, taking advantage of his proximity to Yu Xianheng due to his defensive retreat, swiftly engaged, intercepting Yu Xianheng from continuing to pursue Su Wen. Yu Feng also reacted promptly, swiftly traversing the sky. His wings transformed into sharp blades, attacking Du Guyan. He aimed to intercept Du Guyan. Meanwhile, Shimo intercepted Shimo, preventing him from either protecting Yi Lingling or obstructing Osler. Witnessing the astonishing reversal on the field, Qin Ming was also somewhat surprised. Using wind element manipulation to mitigate the damage from the explosion, despite being so close, one would typically suffer from the shockwaves, yet Su Wen used them to his advantage, making his opponent believe he had calculated correctly. In reality, Su Wen could swiftly distance himself from the explosion's core using the shockwave itself. The time he endured the thunder and flame damage was extremely brief, and coupled with the isolation provided by the wind element, he minimized the impact of the explosion. This is an advanced tactic, and the key to it lies in the initial mental game. He calculated just right. The fireball was just about to condense, and assuming Yu Xianheng had the chance to erupt with his second spirit skill, preventing Su Wen from smoothly condensing the fireball into its most terrifying form. He could use the clash to escape effortlessly. After Yu Xianheng's eruption, there was a lag in his strength, so he couldn't shake off Osler's entanglement at the first opportunity. A fierce wind rose around his body, and the fireballs and wind blades descended towards Yu Lingling in the midst of the tempest. Qin Ming's expression changed slightly. He quickly manifested his martial spirit. Qin Ming announced regretfully. Yu Xianheng's expression was grim. Seizing the opportunity, he collided head-on with Osler, pushing him back, then turned his gaze towards Su Wen. Flight. Su Wen actually had the ability to fly. And this method of flight was so unique. He split the pages of a book, folding and combining them to form huge wings of folded paper. With the enhancement of his first spirit skill, the strength of his paper wings cannot be underestimated, Yu Feng remarked. They're probably even stronger than flesh and blood wings. The physical strength of a beast martial spirit master is generally stronger than that of a tool martial spirit master, and the enhancement spirit skills provides a great boost to physical attributes. But tool martial spirits are easier to enhance in terms of the strength of the tool itself. Even if books aren't suitable to be used as weapons, they're still ultimately tool martial spirits. One Yanzi, no need to hold back, Qin Ming said. Du Yuyan was now somewhat constrained, mainly concerned about her toxins causing excessive harm to Su Wen. But now, it seemed there was no need to worry about Su Wen's physical condition and other aspects. With two spirit masters capable of flight, one being an agile type spirit master and the other attack type. Not to mention Shimo the defensive spirit master. It was really difficult for the trio of Yu Xianheng's team to deal with them if they kept holding back. If Du Yuyan remained constrained at this moment, it would undoubtedly lead to defeat. After Qin Ming finished speaking, he looked at Xiaozan. Seeing Xiaozan remain silent, he breathed a sigh of relief. With Su Wen's level of mastery over wind elements, he can probably isolate a majority of toxins. Qin Ming continued, like toxins that paralyzed the nerves. Yu Xianheng was surrounded by lightning, and the toxins would be nullified by the lightning attribute's soul power within his body, leaving him unaffected. However, Oslar and Yu Feng were not so fortunate. As the battle progressed, they too were gradually eliminated. Shimo and Shimo were also eliminated. In the end, Su Wen was left to contend with Yu Xianheng and Du Yuyan alone. In the air, he was already in an unbeatable position from the start. Although quite shameless, even in the Spirit Master competition, this type of combat was recognized. By using wind elements to completely envelop himself and with the assistance of spiritual power, once any toxin spread against the wind, he could quickly stimulate more heaven and earth energy to transform into airflow, replacing the contaminated parts to ensure that the airflow around his body remained toxin-free. How does he still have soul power? Yu Xianheng and Du Yuyan's expressions turned grim. Qin Ming looked surprised. Does Su Wen have that much soul power? Xiaozan shook his head, offering no explanation. He had noticed this when teaching Su Wen during training sessions. Su Wen's soul power recovery speed was extremely fast. Su Wen had explained to him that it was the effect of his strong spiritual power. Chapter 37, Xiaozan is proud. Second spirit skill, control. Su Wen's second spirit skill allows him to use a certain amount of spiritual power and soul power to control the heaven and earth energy of the outside world. In the month before coming to Heaven Dao City, he was actually trying to use this to improve his cultivation speed. The more abundant the external heaven and earth energy around him, the faster the cultivation speed. This is inevitable. Many places with abundant heaven and earth energy are occupied by large forces for this reason. This is also a rare direction in the Spirit Master world today to improve cultivation speed other than simulating the cultivation environment. Unfortunately, Su Wen's method of gathering heaven and earth energy to improve cultivation speed has always had a bottleneck. Cultivation has never been a short-term project in terms of increasing the upper limit of soul power. However, although the improvement in cultivation is not very obvious, assisting Su Wen in restoring soul power has extremely good effects. By consuming a certain amount of soul power that results in a longer period of continuous soul power recovery, the recovery speed may not surpass the consumed spirit power, but the total amount recovered after some time exceeds the consumed soul power at the start. In this way, this method becomes a sustaining technique for Su Wen. Not to mention Yu Xianheng and Du Yan, who are currently fighting with Su Wen, and even Qin Ming the Spirit King, was Speed quite surprised. Su Wen is just a Spirit Grandmaster. He could actually compete in soul power and is on par with 2 Spirit Elders. Su Wen generally gives the impression of not having a high amount of soul power, and each time he uses a spirit skill, the consumption is not small, Qin Ming murmured. However, his recovery ability is just too abnormal. Xiao Zhan nodded as if something was wrong. That's right. This kid has learned most of the techniques I've been exploring for so many years in just 7 days. This abnormal recovery ability is a major key. Su Wen is like a perpetual motion machine, consuming his soul power in exchange for more soul power recovery. The key is, he can fly, too, even if the process of consumption and recovery takes enough time to achieve a state of consuming less and recovering more. Su Wen can completely maneuver in the air. And once Du Yan and Yu Xianheng want to conserve soul power or rest, Su Wen will intervene. The other 5 who were eliminated on the sidelines also look endlessly speech at the 2 sides on the field. Stop, Qin Ming shouted. Continuing the fight would be pointless. Yu Xianheng and Du Yan breathed a sigh of relief. Let's call this match a draw, Su Wen said proactively. Although he controlled the wind element to avoid poisoning as much as possible, how could the spread of toxins be completely isolated? The longer the time, the more trace amounts of toxins he could not prevent would accumulate every moment. So, whether he could hold on first or Yu Xianheng and the others ran out of soul power first, it's really hard to say. Senior sister Du Yan Xianheng, your bursts are still not strong enough, and you are too hesitant during battles. And Yanzi, your problem is the most serious. Your poison is very strong, and under normal circumstances, your control is very good. But when facing someone like Su Wen, your poison is almost ineffective. Today, Su Wen could only engage in a consumption battle. What if his soul power level was higher and his strength was enough? Although satisfied, Qin Ming still pointed out several shortcomings. Qin Ming had reminded Du Yan of her cultivation shortcomings long ago, but with a titled Douluo grandfather, Qin Ming didn't want to interfere too much. However, continuing from this battle today, he reiterated his previous advice. Yanzi, your poison is a means of control, but you can't rely solely on toxicity. The current direction that Du Yan is suitable for development is nothing more than controlling the poison mist, enhancing the impact of the poison mist so that even when encountering methods like Su Wen's, she can contend with his airflow and effectively spread the toxins. Of course, if taking a more microscopic perspective, focusing on exploring the spreadability of the toxin itself is also possible. Even without a powerful poison mist to counter Su Wen's airflow, just coming into contact with the airflow, even in adverse wind conditions, the toxin can spread rapidly. For the current Du Yan, the latter is naturally difficult to explore. After all, her current spiritual power is insufficient, making it challenging to develop such fine control over the toxin. However, what Qin Ming mentioned about controlling the poison mist and increasing its impact is feasible. But Su Wen knew Du Bo's trick. One person could destroy a city. This relies not on control but on the exploration of the toxin spreading ability, allowing one's own toxin to possess terrifying lethality while also having a frightening spread. Qin Ming's approach to teaching Du Yan wasn't something Su Wen was interested in analyzing blindly. He just went along with his thoughts due to his habit of theoretical research. Osler, you're still too impulsive and not calm enough. When Su Wen was in crisis, even if you had rushed over at that time, Su Wen would still have been eliminated. Instead, Xianheng was allowed to seamlessly connect with teacher Qin Ming, Osler accepted humbly. However, it was apparent that such a problem wasn't easily overcome. Even if it was just a newcomer like Su Wen in trouble, he was still so impulsive, indicating how much emotion outweighed rationality in his judgment. However, this isn't necessarily a bad thing. Yu Feng, your performance today didn't have any major mistakes, but your control over the wind element isn't as good as Su Wen's. You need to strengthen that. Lingling, you also need to enhance your survival training. After each battle, Qin Ming would provide feedback, point out their shortcomings, and then offer training suggestions for the next steps. Alright, let's welcome Su Wen, who joined the team today. Hello, Su Junior brother. Hello, senior brothers and sisters. After the battle, Qin Ming didn't immediately arrange training. Instead, he gave Su Wen and the 7 others time to communicate with each other. Senior Xiaozan, your guidance for Su Wen has been perfect, Qin Ming exclaimed. Techniques Su Wen had just demonstrated. Especially that terrifying recovery ability. Xiaozan looked proud. Although he only taught Su Wen for 7 days, which of the methods Su Wen showed just now was not developed by him? Or so he thought while selectively ignoring Su Wen's ability to fly and his wind control. So he smugly took the compliment from Qin Ming. If you want to read 20 chapters ahead, check out patreon.com/JohanLT. Chapter 38, Getting Closer to the Team. Qin Ming and Xiaozan reached a consensus on the cultivation of Su Wen. Qin Ming is responsible for soul power cultivation, while Xiaozan is in charge of martial spirit development. By the way, Teacher Qin, you should be close to breaking through level 60, right? Xiaozan asked when Qin Ming had been at level 59 for several months. However, it is possible for this bottleneck to last for 1 or even 2 years. So it's not quite right to say Qin Ming is about to break through level 60. I've only reached level 59, and my soul power growth hasn't reached its limit yet, so I'm far from level 60. Qin Ming shook his head. Your Inferno Grey Wolf is also fire attributed. You can come to me when you're free to exchange ideas. Maybe it will help you break through to Spirit Emperor, Xiaozan said. Qin Ming was pleasantly surprised and expressed his gratitude. Junior brother Su, what's the deal with your soul power recovery speed? One Yu Xianheng was very curious about Su Wen's terrifying endurance. After all, the loss was due to this point, and he really wanted to figure out the answer now. Although Du Yuyan had been giving signals indicating that this was a private matter for spirit masters, Yu Xianheng obviously didn't notice and didn't have such intentions. Su Wen didn't conceal anything. It's because of the nature of my martial spirit, he replied promptly. He had already come up with a reason related to his spiritual power recovery when talking to Xiaozan, which was actually quite plausible, but when it came to Yu Xianheng, Su Wen obviously couldn't just reveal everything about himself. Behind the other party was the entire Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon family. With Yu Xianheng's temperament, he would probably report everything. Blaming it all on the martial spirit's nature was the best option. This way, even his 1,000-year-old second ring would make people subconsciously think it was due to Su Wen's martial spirit nature. Or rather, his martial spirit evolved such because of characteristics of this 1,000-year-old second ring. What happened during the absorption of the second ring that led to the evolution of such characteristics? Step by step, tracing it back, it instead leads people in another direction. Oh, by the way, Junior brother Su, what's the deal with your 1,000-year-old second ring? Not a single one of the 7 wasn't curious about Su Wen's second spirit ring. But after the battle, none of them immediately remembered to ask. After Yu Xianheng asked, the others also snapped out of it. Du Yuyan also wanted to ask, but because Yu Xianheng's previous question was already very presumptuous, and now this question about the 1,000-year-old second ring was even more personal, so she didn't feel comfortable speaking up right away. It was Yu Feng who was quite carefree that directly asked. It was just luck. At that time, I absorbed a phantom fox, and I made a mistake in judging its age? Huh? Yu Feng was quite astonished. A mistake in judging the age of the spirit beast? That's a big taboo when obtaining a spirit ring. But when the spirit ring emerged, the 1,000-year-old spirit ring was indeed purple. You couldn't possibly make a mistake in judgment, right? Sure, you might make a mistake in killing, but would you still recklessly absorb it like that? Well, since it's already dead, and I put in so much effort, it would be a waste not to. The 7 members of the Heaven Dao Emperor team looked at Su Wen with somewhat strange gazes. It's already dead. What kind of devilish reasoning is this? At the time, I also felt that the spirit ring would benefit me, so I absorbed it directly. Su Wen described his state of mind at the time as reckless. After all, attempting to absorb a 1,000-year-old spirit ring for the second spirit ring, many people had such arrogant thoughts. Usually, they could be more obedient under the advice of their teachers, but when they were in the actual situation, and they had just put in so much effort to hunt down a just right 1,000-year-old one, with the best 1,000-year-old spirit ring right in front of them, who could really stay rational? Su Wen was just that lucky guy. Upon hearing them discuss this, Qin Ming forward to interrupt, advising the 7 not to attempt this recklessly, and he sternly warned Su Wen. Teacher Qin, you can rest assured. I was also impulsive at the time. If my martial spirit hadn't mutated during the spirit ring absorption process, I wouldn't have been able to endure it, Su Wen's eyes flashed with a hint of fear. This hint of fear was genuine. He had underestimated the difficulty when he absorbed the 1,000-year-old spirit ring in a rush. Although there was theoretical support for it, he overestimated his own physical fitness. He thought that just absorbing the spirit ring of 1,000 years old wouldn't be a problem for him, and he dared to challenge even 100 or 200 years more. But the reality proved that just absorbing the spirit ring of 1,000 years old nearly burst him. His physical condition had been greatly enhanced by monkey wine, his meridians greatly strengthened, combined with his control over the martial spirit space, and the technique to accelerate the infiltration of soul power from the spirit ring into the martial spirit space. All these factors combined just barely held him together. So, the fear was real, and Su Wen was grateful that the spirit beast that appeared at the time was just a 1,000-year-old three-eyed phantom fox, not a spirit beast of 1,001 or 200 years. Martial spirit mutation. Upon hearing Su Wen's words, the others suddenly realized. In today's world of spirit masters, the biggest challenge is the mutation of martial spirits. Hearing that the key to Su Wen's successful absorption of this 1,000-year-old spirit ring was that his martial spirit happened to mutate, they all expressed understanding. I envy you so much, Osler sighed. Such a mutation obviously was a benign one. And with a 1,000-year-old second ring, it skyrocketed directly. Leading among spirit masters of the same level from the second ring onward, the advantage would only grow bigger in the future. After finishing the topic of the 1,000-year-old second ring, the seven began to discuss Su Wen's abilities. Junior brother Su, your control over the wind element is really impressive, Yu Feng admired. How long have you been practicing? Even though Yu Feng was already a spirit elder with a third ring, he was not as skilled in this aspect as Su Wen. It was indeed a bit embarrassing. However, his spirit skill, while related to wind element control, involved attaching the wind element to wings to form wind blades. The ability to develop wind blades that could be swung remotely was already the result of training under Qin Ming's guidance. Haha, Senior Yu Feng. It's quite simple, actually. Once you've mastered the technique, you can learn it quickly, Su Wen said generously. Is that so? Yu Feng doubted, shook his head instead, saying, forget it, my spirit skill is not particularly adept. It would be half the effort with twice the results if I continue to practice. 2. He was well aware that Su Wen's fast learning was because his spirit skill was suitable for this direction. His own spirit skill involved attaching the wind element to wings, and the technique of developing wind blades remotely deviated too much from that. If you want to develop in this direction, it's better to acquire a versatile wind attribute attack spirit skill in the future, and then it will be easier to develop. However, there's no problem with us exchanging insights, Yu Feng said. During the exchange, Yi Lingling also healed everyone's injuries, including Su Wen, who was poisoned. Looking at the purple begonia flower Yi Lingling held in her hands, Su Wen exclaimed, Senior Lingling, your 9-heart flowering apple's healing effect is truly remarkable. It seems like Yi Lingling's existence is indispensable for increasing the training efficiency here. If you want to read 20 chapters ahead, check out patreon.com/JohanLT. Chapter 39, Battle Again. A spirit master's cultivation not only relies on the accumulation of soul power but also on combat. Even though Su Wen's development of spirit skills under Xiao Zan's guidance was impeccable, there were still many shortcomings in actual combat. In the recent battle, although his performance was decent, this decent performance was mostly due to the tactics he devised based on his abilities. In the real tug-of-war of consumption, his performance was not good. It must be said that combat requires talent. Even if one knows the effects of skills and can execute combos smoothly in practice, and even if one is proficient in the theory of combat, entering real combat can still easily lead to failure. Especially when combat is not as simple as one-on-one duels, it may also involve other variables. In such situations, real combat experience is indispensable. During actual combat, injuries are inevitable, and the effect of Yi Lingling's healing spirit skill is then demonstrated. As a spirit master who can immediately stand by for the other 6 and possesses considerable healing abilities, Yi Lingling, with her 9-heart flowering apple spirit, is the core of the Heaven Dao Emperor team. Haha, Su Wen, you didn't show any mercy when you attacked Lingling from behind earlier, Yu Feng teased. Isn't it because Lingling's martial spirit healing ability is too strong? I had to eliminate her first, Su Wen responded. Yi Lingling, her expression hidden under a black veil, remained inscrutable. But even though her expression couldn't be seen, her aloofness could still be felt. Alright, next, Continue practicing according to my previous requirements. After the afternoon practice ends, you will have another showdown." Kinming didn't give the 8 any rest time, directly arranging for training. The abilities of Su Wen are already familiar to the other 7, so the next showdown will be even more intense. Since Su Wen has the least practical combat experience, Kinming will give him individual attention. "From now on, I'll call you Xia Aowen," Kinming said. "Xia Aowen, your foundation is excellent. Whether it's physical fitness, control over your martial spirit, or even your martial spirit skill, they are all outstanding. It can be said to be quite perfect. However, what is always observed in real combat is not just a spirit master's explosiveness or the excellence of their spirit skill. In battle, what is always observed is a spirit master's combat talent. In a confrontation between a spirit master with strong explosiveness and one with weak explosiveness, the outcome is not necessarily determined by who has the stronger burst tug of war. Leveraging their own strengths against the opponent's weaknesses, victory is not difficult to achieve. And this is just in a one-on-one scenario. If we increase the number of participants to 2-2, 3-3, or even 7-7, there will be many variables to count for. Kinming explained some combat techniques to Su Wen. Su Wen also integrated these combat theories with his experiences from his previous life. Just like playing a game like League of Legends, different spirit masters excel in different techniques. As long as the tactics are appropriate, one can find a way to victory. 3. To truly maximize one's abilities, besides mastering one's own abilities completely, it is also necessary to analyze the battlefield situation and anticipate the opponent's abilities and spirit skills. In the blink of an eye, a day had passed. This time, Xia Aowen, Yanzi, Lingling, and Shimo will be in one group, while Xian Heng, you will be with Osler, Yu Feng, and Shimo in the other team, Kinming announced. Among the 8 members of the team, only Su Wen and Yu Xian Heng could be considered strong attackers. Even though Su Wen lagged behind in terms of soul power level, in his confrontations with Yu Xian Heng, he still outperformed Osler, Yu Feng, and the others by a considerable margin. This made Kinming particularly happy today. With Su Wen joining the team, the daily training of the team would also benefit Yu Xian Heng's growth. Previously, even though Yu Xian Heng would spar with Tu Yan and a few others, it only honed his skills in battling agile and controlled type spirit masters. When it came to clashes between true strong attackers, Yu Xian Heng could only go to the Great Spirit Arena. But the Great Spirit Arena has a daily limit on the number of matches. Su Wen's addition has alleviated this issue to some extent. Of course, to truly achieve the best combat effectiveness, it's not feasible at the moment. We still need Su Wen to increase his soul power. The current grouping arrangement is just Kinming subconsciously separating Su Wen and Yu Xian Heng into 2 teams. This time, with Yu Feng present, Xia Aowen, your attrition tactics will surely be targeted, Du Yan remarked. Don't worry, Sister Yan, I won't rely solely on attrition, Su Wen responded. Lingling, I'll trouble you to provide full healing support for me later, Du Yan nodded, then turned to Shimo and said, with Oslar and Yu Feng on the other side, both of them are agile attackers. Lingling will definitely be targeted by them. Shimo, you'll be guarding Lingling throughout. She looked at Su Wen again and asked, Xia Aowen, are you sure you can withstand Xian Heng's attacks? You've just seen his explosiveness. With Shimo responsible for guarding Yu Lingling, someone must also be able to withstand Yu Xian Heng's attacks. Now, only Su Wen remains. Regarding this grouping, Du Yan also felt the pressure and wondered why Kinming arranged it this way. Sister Yan, you just need to control the overall situation, and ensure that Xian Heng and I have a fair fight. Based on this, please deal with Yu Feng and Oslar as quickly as possible, then come and assist me. Listening to these words from 11-year-old Su Wen, Du Yan couldn't help but feel a bit apprehensive. However, having just witnessed Yu Xian Heng's explosiveness and even clashed with him, Su Wen shouldn't be just talking big. The second awakening of the 1,000-year-old spirit ring makes up for the gap in spirit rings, and the recovery speed of soul power also compensates for the disadvantage in total soul power. Plus, with Lingling providing full-time healing, there may indeed be hope to withstand Xian Heng. Alright, tactical discussions end here. Both sides, prepare, battle begins. Kinming announced. Noticed that Su Wen wasn't flying and seemed to have no intention of engaging in attrition tactics in this battle. For a moment, he was unsure how to proceed. Osler transformed into a black leopard and rushed towards the side, intending to ambush Yu Lingling. However, Shimo tightly guarded Yi Lingling in front. A pink peony blossomed, emitting white light, landing on Su Wen, Doulou Yan, and Shimo regardless of the spirit ring acquired. 9-heart flowering apple's spirit skill remains the same, arranged group healing. With an increase in the number of spirit rings, the healing effect and range will become more terrifying. Su Wen also summoned his martial spirit, a book emitting a magnificent glow with purple patterns floating above his head. Pages of the book fluttered, folding around Su Wen to form small flying swords. This healing power is excellent, aura. Bring it on. Seeing this, Yu Xianheng, though somewhat surprised, showed no fear and directly met the attack head-on. If you want to read 20 chapters ahead, check out patreon.com/JohanLT. Chapter 40, Further Exploring the First Spirit Skill. The tactics of the opponents were somewhat different from what Yu Xianheng and the other three had anticipated. However, it wasn't a big problem. Since Su Wen was charging towards them, Yu Xianheng was not at all intimidated. However, as Su Wen and Yu Xianheng approached each other with a strong collision force, Yu Feng only hovered in the air, not launching a real attack to avoid being entangled by Doulou Yan. His task in this battle was to prevent Su Wen from attempting aerial prolonged tactics. Now that Su Wen came up and collided with Yu Xianheng, both Yu Xianheng and Yu Feng thought Su Wen was going to take off again using the same method and quickly launch a surprise attack on their side. However, this time they were wrong. Flames crazily compressed above Su Wen's right fist, creating a sense of an explosion that was uncontrollable. First spirit skill, Thunder Dragon Claw. Yu Xianheng didn't use all his spirit skills, he just used the first spirit skill to probe Su Wen. Flame Fist. Su Wen punched out. A rich white light nourished his right fist from within, and the injuries caused by the burning flames quickly healed. Su Wen endured the pain, forcibly integrating his compression of the flames and the explosiveness into the Flame Fist technique, and then unleashed a true Flame Fist. Boom! This is Xiaozhan's Flame Fist. Qin Ming, who was watching, was also surprised. He didn't expect Su Wen to have already learned Xiaozhan's Flame Fist. This was no less than gaining another spirit skill of the same level. For a spirit Grandmaster, it was in no way inferior to 100-year spirit skill, and it could even rival offensive powerful spirit skills like those from 1,000-year-old spirits. From Xiaowen's appearance, it seems that he can't use it freely. The burden on him is still significant. Qin Ming quickly discovered the truth. Yi Lingling continuously activated her spirit skill to support Su Wen, evidently exerting maximum effort to provide constant healing for him. Boom! Su Wen's fist and Yu Xianheng's claw collided, and the ha-ha, good, Yu Xianheng's eyes lit up. He laughed out loud, and once again engaged in another collision with Su Wen using the Thunder Dragon Claw. Su Wen condensed flames on both fists and engaged in close combat with Yu Xianheng. Is this a self-created spirit skill? Oslar and Yu Feng were dumbfounded, completely dumbfounded that Su Wen could erupt like this. Previously, they could still consider Su Wen's display of paper wings, fireballs, and wind blades as a development of spirit skills, but now, Flame Fist was definitely more than just a development of spirit skills. It should be a self-created spirit skill that a spirit master could cultivate on their own. Not inferior to 100-year spirit skill of a spirit elder. By this calculation, Su Wen has two 100-year spirit skills, 1,000-year-old spirit skill, and only lacks the total amount of soul power compared to true spirit elder. Moreover, Su Wen has a freakishly fast recovery speed in terms of total soul power. Yu Feng and Osler both felt a bit frustrated, feeling that Su Wen could truly be treated as a spirit elder now. And Su Wen is only 11 years old. Seeing that Su Wen's collision with Yu Xianheng didn't clearly fall into disadvantage, Doulou Yan, surprised but not forgetting the original plan, took action. The Jade Phosphor Violet poison spreads. On the training ground, Su Wen clashed with Yu Xianheng while Doulou Yan and Shimo, along with Yi Lingling, engaged in battle with Osler, Yu Feng, and Shimo, and Yu Feng were constantly restrained and quickly taken down. In Xianheng, you've lost. Doulou Yan and Shimo surrounded Yu Xianheng from 3 directions, pronouncing judgment on him. 3 against 1, no, with Yi Lingling providing healing, it's 4 against 1. How could they lose? Although Doulou Yan and Shimo are not in great condition, with significant soul power consumption despite not having serious injuries, Yu Xianheng has also consumed a considerable amount. Su Wen forced him to use his 3rd spirit skill. I didn't expect your combat abilities to be so excellent, Su Wen. Yu Xianheng gave up struggling, smiled bitterly, and said, Su Wen, a 23rd level spirit Grandmaster, managed to battle him, a 33rd level spirit elder, for more than 10 minutes. Su Wen remained silent for a while, and after the pain in his body decreased somewhat under the continuous illumination of Yi Lingling's purple light, he finally spoke. I was only able to unleash that move just now under Sister Lingling's treatment, Su Wen explained. In fact, it was Su Wen and Yi Lingling's cooperation that dragged Yu Shai and Hang for 10 minutes. You just used Xiaozan's flame fist, right? I didn't expect you, at only level 23, to master his technique, Yu Shai and Hang marveled. Xiaozan, the fire demon, has his own self-created spirit skill line, the fire demon style, which is also quite famous. There are many in the Spirit Master world who wish to learn it, and Xiaozan also has several Heaven Dao level disciples, each of whom specializes in fire element control spirit skills. However, none of them have mastered even one of the combat techniques within the fire demon style, such as the flame fist. One's self-created spirit skills can be learned later in life, independent of spirit rings, and can also be passed down. However, the difficulty of inheriting them is not small. Qin Ming made the final summary, and then let the 8 of them go to practice individually. Back in the library, Su Wen sat cross-legged, circulating his internal strength while pondering over the 2 battles of the day. Stirring the fire element with the wind element indeed unleashes greater power, Su Wen remarked. Su Wen had long thought of combining the 2 elements of wind and fire to perfect the flame fist. Today, with Yi Lingling's treatment and the direct collision with Yu Shai and Heng, he successfully attempted it under pressure needed. Su Wen's soul power also increased subtly as he meditated. Furthermore, it seems that there is still room for further exploration of my first spirit skill. Previously, Su Wen had only regarded his first spirit skill as an enhancement spirit skill, but now he realized that there was still potential to be tapped into. The enhancement ability of my first spirit skill may not only apply to my martial spirit, Starlight Fruit Tree, Starlight Fruit. Reflecting on the origin of his first spirit ring and combining it with the sensation of unconsciously integrating book pages into my first spirit skill can truly be called an auxiliary spirit skill. If you want to read 50 chapters ahead, check out patreon.com/JohanLT. Chapter 41, Urgency to Cultivate Faster. In the midst of battle, Su Wen naturally mastered the technique of integrating the pages of the book into his fists. 1. Is this the feeling of being possessed? Those with a beast martial spirit experience, trying again, feeling the increased physical strength after the integration of the pages into himself, Su Wen felt some emotion. It's not without reason that the spirit masters with a beast martial spirit surpass those of the Douluo martial spirit in physical strength. Just like when the inspiration for the spirit fusion method was proposed, merging the true body of the Douluo martial spirit with the spirit master, what I'm doing here is actually the same as being possessed by the Douluo martial spirit, or rather, Su Wen is actually on the path of practicing the spirit fusion method. My fusion with the martial spirit must be very high, that's why I can do this. With this new discovery regarding the first spirit skill, Su Wen had many thoughts. By integrating the pages into his teammates, perhaps it could strengthen them, making it a true auxiliary spirit skill. Integrating the pages with wind blades and fireballs, if it could also enhance them, would be like adding an extra layer of reinforcement out of thin air. After all, when Su Wen uses the martial spirit to manipulate the heaven and earth energy to cast the fireballs and wind blades, or even the combination of flame wind blade, the martial spirit itself already enjoys the enhancement from the first spirit skill. At this point, if those attacks cast by him could still be reinforced by integrating into them the pages of his martial spirit, it would be a double enhancement, 2-1 spirit skill applied twice. Taking note of these thoughts, Su Wen continued to organize the gains from the 2 battles during the day. In this way, Su Wen's study life at the Heaven Dao Imperial Academy finally fell into place. Learning 2 types of elemental control under Xiaozan's guidance, sparring with Qin Ming, and summarizing the day's gains at night. In the blink of an eye, half a month had passed. Su Wen's daily life was very fulfilling, and the gains were enormous, with the exploration of the wind and fire elements growing day by day. However, he wasn't satisfied. The cultivation of soul power is too slow. Half a month had passed, plus the time spent in the Saint Spirit Hall before and the 7 days before joining the team. Basically a month had gone by. And in that month, while he had taken a big step closer to reaching level 24 in soul power, it wasn't enough to satisfy him. It's been 2 months since breaking through level 23, and based on the current progress, It'll still take another month to reach level 24 to 3 months for one level, and only a 4-level increase in a year. And that's just the current pace. If soul power levels continue to rise, maybe it will take 4 or 5 months to increase one level, or even further down the line, perhaps one level per year. This is the norm for spirit masters in the Douluo continent. For example, Salis, who's a level 87 spirit master, has been stuck for several years at that level. And there are titled Douluo stuck at level 91 for over a decade. So, Su Wen's situation is quite normal. Moreover, his speed isn't slow either. A 4-level increase in a year, this is already remarkable at the Spirit Grandmaster stage. Within 2 years, he will definitely become a Spirit Elder. And a 13-year-old Spirit Elder is an extremely monstrous existence in the Douluo continent. But he wasn't satisfied with these meager achievements. Not fast enough. I want visible improvement. The development of the second spirit skill must be accelerated. The rich heaven and earth energy can accelerate the cultivation of soul power, but I have yet to reap the benefits of this spirit skill. It is indeed feasible to use the second spirit skill to mobilize the dense concentration of elemental energy around oneself to accelerate soul power cultivation. However, while using the second spirit skill, soul power is also consumed. Even if Su Wen tries his best to control it, it is still inevitable that some elemental energy will be used to restore soul power rather than to break through its limit. In fact, the overall cost effectiveness is even lower. I must find a key problem, one that is natural for spirit skills to consume soul power. Su Wen can't find any fault with that. What he can try to solve now is the latter part. Most of the elemental energy I refine is used to replenish the consumption of my spirit skill. If I can figure out why this is happening and eliminate this part of the elemental energy recovery for soul power instead, using it to only expand the limit of soul power, then my cultivation speed can be improved. Su Wen reviewed what he had learned, pondering its principles. Xiao, although you're a substitute team member, you can't miss out on the experience of the Great Spirit Arena. After half a month of training, Qinming finally decided to let Su Wen try the Great Spirit Arena. With your strength at the Spirit Grandmaster stage, you're completely stable. I'll set some restrictions for you. Without using flying techniques, only fighting with Flame Fist, you must obtain the Gold Spirit Badge within a year. Without Yi Lingling's assistance, Su Wen's Flame Fist had dropped by a level. During this time, Qinming also briefly discussed with Xiao on the direction of improvement for Flame Fist, which is to continuously adapt to the eruption of flames within the body and gradually improve one's resistance it. That's why he set such requirements for Su Wen. Yu Feng, on the other hand, stood beside Su Wen, explaining the significance of the Gold Spirit Badge. Qinming, along with the 7 official team members and Su Wen, left the academy and headed to the Great Spirit Arena in Heavendao City. Heavendao City is the place with the most spirit masters and the highest concentration of geniuses in the entire Heavendao Empire. There are also many sects entrenched here. Whether it's academies or sects, they often use the Great Spirit Arena to hone talented students. Therefore, the Gold Spirit Badges obtained in the Great Spirit Arena in Heavendao City are much more prestigious than those in other cities. Arriving at the Great Spirit Arena, Su Wen was amazed. Even before entering, he was stunned by the scale of the Great Spirit Arena. Looking around, almost the entire square belongs to the Great Spirit Arena, with buildings belonging to the arena as far as the eye could see. Upon entering, Qinming registered Su Wen. Scholar Warrior. Seeing the name badge in Su Wen's hand, Qinming's mouth twitched. What kind of ID is this? Even though your martial spirit is the buck martial spirit, your development direction is clearly that of a combat spirit master. Qinming still didn't know that Su Wen was a scholar. Although Su Wen didn't hide it, this kind of internal cultivation is generally not noticeable unless deliberately displayed, especially since Su Wen displayed a fierce fighting style with Flame Fist in front of Qinming every day, completely shattering the scholarly elegance. Never mind, choosing a name is your personal matter. Qinming waved his hand and said, today is your first time, so it should be quick. 3. Whether the matching mechanism in the Great Spirit Arena goes from weak to strong, its consecutive victories or changes in the level of spirit badges, the level of opponents in the match will also increase. Alright, your opponent has been matched as well. Battle Axe. Looking at the information on the big screen, Qinming instructed Su Wen to prepare. The first match is also a quality check for newcomers. It won't be easy. Qinming's earlier statement that Su Wen would progress quickly is because Su Wen's own strength places him above his peers. Xiao, Do your best later. Yu Feng and others cheered Su Wen, and then each found their own arena to prepare. Su Wen put on his mask and arrived at arena number 7. 10 minutes later. The Scholar Warrior vs Battle Axe. Please both players prepare for the match. If you want to read 50 chapters ahead, check out patreon.com/JohanLT. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 42, Crown Prince Zhu King. Su Wen's opponent was a big man with his upper body bare, with a cross-shaped scar on his chest. Are you a scholar who can fight? The scarred man looked at Su Wen and laughed heartily. With those skinny arms and legs, you really look like a scholar. His expression changed, and he said fiercely, but you may not understand the true meaning of battle. Su Wen paid no attention to his opponent's words. Perhaps it was simply mockery, or maybe the opponent was engaging in psychological warfare, trying to increase pressure on himself. But none of it mattered. Both sides release your martial spirits. The scarred man's martial spirit was a pair of giant axes, with 2 spirit rings, one white and one yellow, rising from under his feet. His soul power level was also not low, reaching level 28. While Su Wen's martial spirit and spirit ring caused the entire scene to fall silent. One yellow, one purple. A purple ring. The scarred man looked bewildered, suspecting that the matching mechanism was wrong, accidentally placing him in a spirit elder match. But that didn't make sense. Although I'm strong, I'm only a spirit grandmaster. I didn't apply for a challenge beyond my level. How could I be placed in a spirit elder match? He carefully counted Su Wen's spirit rings again and was even more astonished. It's 2 rings. The second ring is 1,000 years old. Even the referee was stunned at this moment, failing to announce the start of the match promptly after both sides released their martial spirits. But soon after realization, he also issued the command immediately. The match begins. Anyway, this battle had to go on, and the audience outside the arena, after a brief silence, got their emotions stirred up as the referee gave the command. Second ring, 1,000 years old. My goodness, isn't it said that you need to reach the spirit elder rank to absorb a 1,000-year-old spirit ring? How could this be? My second ring is still white, yet others can absorb a 1,000-years-old spirit ring. How are we supposed to survive? Some doubted whether their status as spirit masters was different from others. The battle commenced. The referee's voice also brought the scarred man back to attention. With a slightly wary look in his eyes as he glanced at Su Wen, his vigilance was limited. Su Wen's book martial spirit, emitting a magnificent glow, greatly diminished the intimidation of his second ring. Swinging a pair of giant axes, the scarred man charged forward. First spirit skill, sweeping all directions, 2 purple lights shimmered as 2 flames enveloped Su Wen's fists, emitting a bursting aura. Although without Yi Lingling's continuous healing, Su Wen's flame fist couldn't reach its full potential. After half a month of combat, he had developed some resistance. Now, Flame Fist could still compress and unleash flames with explosive power. Boom! Su Wen stomped fiercely and charged out as well. The Scholar Warrior has actually chosen a head-on collision. The commentator was extremely excited. My goodness, his spirit skill is actually a fire attribute strong attack spirit skill. No wonder it's 1,000 years old spirit ring. The commentator's voice echoed over the arena with strength as he swung his right arm, wielding the giant axe directly at Su Wen. Su Wen threw a punch. His right fist was thrown out, and before it made contact with the giant axe, the flames on its surface exploded. Boom! His body spun, disrupting the scarred man's plan to counterattack with his left axe after the collision, as he was pushed back by the explosion. But Su Wen continued his charge. Boom! 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 Each of his punches exploded into flames. The commentator and the audience were completely ignited by this fighting style. The second ring, 1,000 years old, was already a highlight, and Su Wen's ferocious fighting style made it even more thrilling. At this moment, the audience subconsciously forgot that Su Wen's martial spirit was a book. The scarred man couldn't hold on for too long and was defeated. The Scholar Warrior wins. As the referee announced the result, the audience once again noticed Su Wen's ID before the match. They criticized this ID, and now, they criticize it even more. Is he really a scholar? Must be fake, right? Just because he's holding a book doesn't mean he's a scholar. Su Wen's second ring being 1,000 years old, was bound to attract a lot of attention, but it was going to be exposed sooner or later, so he didn't mind. As for what happens next, it depends on how the major forces respond. However, I did join the Heaven Dao Imperial Academy after all, and in the eyes of outsiders, I'm considered the legitimate successor of Fire Demon Xiaozan's lineage. Xiaozan was also a prominent spirit saint. Moreover, Su Wen is currently a student of the academy. The academy is backed by the Heaven Dao royal family, so it's unlikely to cause too much turmoil. Talent is important, but ultimately, strength reigns supreme in the world of spirit masters. Potential is potential, and only when it's realized does one deserve equal attention. Even if someone itself wants to understand how Su Wen obtained a 1,000-years-old second ring, they would have to go through the proper channels. Apart from individuals like Douluo, who act according to their own rules without much concern, the major powers still adhere to protocols. In the palace of the Heaven Dao royal family, Emperor Ziyi looked at the memorial in his hand, which described Su Wen's battle in the Great Spirit Arena. Naturally, Emperor Ziyi was aware of Su Wen's existence. I initially thought of hiding him away and letting him shine in the Spirit Master tournament 7 years later, but I didn't expect him to progress so rapidly. Emperor Ziyi recalled Meng Shenji's relayed assessment from Xiaozan. Before the Spirit Master tournament, Su Wen will definitely break through the Spirit Elder level. By then, he will surely possess the strength of a Spirit Ancestor. Having the strength of a Spirit Ancestor is considered excellent in the Spirit Master tournament. Perhaps, in this edition of the tournament, Su Wen will have to make an appearance. And in the next edition after that. This Su Wen must be kept in the academy. 2 years later, he will show his prowess in the tournament, and in the following 5 years, he will exert immense pressure on the Spirit Hall. The Golden Generation? HMPH. Even with your so-called Golden Generation, in the next Spirit Master tournament, the Spirit Hall might lose the title of champion for the first time. What the Heaven Dao Empire needs to ensure now is that Su Wen is not poached by the Spirit Hall one. Well, this time, the 7 Treasure Glazed Glass clan is likely to inquire. It's an opportunity for the Crown Prince to recruit Su Wen, Emperor Ziyi thought. With the Crown Prince's abilities, recruiting Su Wen shouldn't be a problem. In the residence of the Crown Prince Zhu King looked at the intelligence in his hand with composure. This Su Wen, it seems I should meet him. Master, there's new intelligence here. A figure suddenly appeared and handed the intelligence to Zhu King. Opening the intelligence and reading it through, Zhu King remained silent for a long time. That woman. What does she mean? If you want to read 50 chapters ahead, check out patreon.com/JohanLT. Chapter 43, Reactions from All Sides. Su Wen was discovered by Salus, and after Salus discovered Su Wen, the news was also reported to the Supreme Pontiff. Now Su Wen is studying at the Heaven Dao Imperial Academy. I don't need your support to succeed, that woman, Jin Ringsu thought to herself. Although she says that Su Wen's talent is very good, Jin Ringsu placed her hands behind her back, pondering the talents of Su Wen revealed in the intelligence. Cross-level absorption of spirit ring theory. The theory is excellent, and he can transform theory into real power. Much stronger than that Grandmaster. Even if Su Wen's talent is higher, Salus should not have revealed my identity to him. I could have taken him in under the identity of Crown Prince. Gathering Su Wen through personal charm wouldn't be considered relying on the favor of that woman. One looking out the window, she calculated the time in her heart. The Emperor might also have me make contact with Su Wen. In fact, the intelligence on Su Wen had already reached the hands of the Emperor and the Crown Prince on the day he entered the Heaven Dao Imperial Academy. After all, the special situation of a 1,000-years-old second ring of the 3 major boards of education wouldn't be careless with it. After this, neither Emperor Ziyi nor Jin Ringsu rushed to summon Su Wen, but only sent people to observe his subsequent performance. Now, the strength displayed by Su Wen is already sufficient. The book Martial Spirit can follow the path of strong attack, but most of those who follow this path fail, with very few successful examples like Xiaozan. So, no matter how good Su Wen's foundation is, without seeing results, it's just a good foundation. It's like having potential but no corresponding resources to tap into it. In the Great Spirit Arena, Su Wen's performance undoubtedly proves one thing: he is very suitable for the path of strong attack. So, with his foundation, plus the royal family's cultivation, becoming the second Xiaozan is not a difficult task. The strength of a spirit saint is already extremely important for the royal family. If they cultivate him from a lower level, he might even reach greater heights. The Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon Family. Yu Yuanzhen looked at the information in his hand, remaining silent for a long time. Regarding the news about Su Wen, he had actually heard about it earlier, and Yu Xianheng had also communicated with the family. With a relationship between Yu Xianheng and Su Wen as teammates, the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon family had not been in a hurry to recruit Su Wen. Now, having received intelligence about Su Wen demonstrating talent in the Great Spirit Arena, he still had the same intention. However, many elders in the family had different opinions. Family head, although Xianheng and Su Wen are teammates, Su Wen is ultimately the next captain candidate for Xianheng's team. Currently, he is only a reserve member of the Emperor team. No matter how close their relationship is, it cannot be that intimate. Yu Luomian spoke up. Yu Luomian, Yu Yuanzhen's younger brother and the current second in command of the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon family, as well as one of its senior elders, made a valid point. But, elder, given Su Wen's current status, it's also impossible for us to recruit him into the family, spoke a spirit saint elder. Su Wen is currently a student of the Heaven Dao Imperial Academy, and Emperor Ziyi probably won't let him go easily. And, don't forget, Xiao Zhan has significant ties to Spirit Hall. Xiao Zhan's wife and daughter are both in Spirit Hall. His wife is even a Hall Master within Spirit Hall, and his daughter is studying at the Spirit Hall Academy. Even if he himself is now serving at the Heaven Dao Imperial Academy and has been conferred titles by the Heaven Dao Empire, it's hard to say that his ties with Spirit Hall have diminished. While the Heaven Dao royal family might naively believe that Spirit Hall merely seeks to assert its dominance over the two major empires, our Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon family has never been so trusting. The ambitions of Spirit Hall undoubtedly extend beyond just being the most respected sanctuary for all Spirit Masters. Yu Luomian's gaze flickered. It's not a big issue. No matter which faction he's involved with, as long as he shows some inclination, Spirit Masters cannot possibly remain neutral. It's common for them to navigate among various major powers. Our Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon family also has descendants who have joined branches of Spirit Hall. It's a pity that our Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon family isn't adept in the fire attribute. Otherwise, using Xianheng as a bridge and investing in his cultivation would yield the greatest benefits. It would both make the other party owe them a favor and avoid the risk of leaking core family secrets. After this elder finished speaking, he suddenly paused and looked at Yu Luomian. Many elders also turned their gaze to Yu Luomian. Yu Luomian calmly spoke. Aside from directly bringing him into our own faction, offering mentorship is also a good option. Indeed, the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon family isn't skilled in the fire attribute. Those with pure bloodlines possess the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon martial spirit. There might be descendants from branch families who manifest fire attribute spirit masters, but there are none that we can truly boast about. However, their family has one exception. Elder, another elder of Spirit Doulou level from the family spoke up, interrupting Yu Luomian's thoughts. I will contact Erlong. With a sigh, Yu Luomian didn't refuse. Of course, you all know her temperament. The family should also make other plans, such as bringing Su Wen into the family through marriage. 2-7 Treasure Glazed Tile Sect in the Elegant Hall. Ning Fengzi sat at the position of the sect master, looking at the intelligence in his hand describing Su Wen's achievements on the Arena 1. With no accurate information about the royal family and the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon family, the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile Sect only knew that the Scholar Warrior has a 1,000-year second ring, but they knew little about its origins. Is this kid really that important? Gurong seemed a bit puzzled. Obtaining a 1,000-year-old purple ring is just a temporary strength enhancement at the low stages. Ning Fengzi shook his head. It's not as simple as it seems on the surface. For ordinary spirit masters, it's just an additional 1,000-year-old spirit ring, but for the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile Pagoda, it's different. Su Wen naturally could guess that this time he would cause a huge storm among the major powers in the Spirit Master world. First, create momentum, then reap the benefits. Of course, this comes with risks. So, Teacher Qin, it just so happens that I need to go out. I'll go collect my Spirit Master subsidy. Qin Ming didn't hesitate at all and directly let Su Wen leave the Great Spirit Arena first. Today, Su Wen's purpose for entering the Great Spirit Arena was just to get registered. In the future, he would need to build up his account for a month or two before coming back to the Great Spirit Arena for battles, which would be more beneficial for him. Saint Spirit Hall. Hall Master, I'm afraid someone won't play by the rules. Su Wen voiced his concern. Salis paced back and forth, seeming unfazed by what Su Wen said. Your current identity in Spirit Hall is confidential, so Spirit Hall can't openly protect you. He changed the subject. However, it's only difficult to arrange openly. The commotion you caused today should already be known to the Emperor. Crown Prince might take action, and when that happens, find a way to steer the conversation towards protection. Su Wen's eyes lit up. Hall Master, do we have someone under Crown Prince? He looked as if he had uncovered the truth, as if Spirit Hall had become powerful enough for Crown Prince to assign someone to protect him, and that person might be an insider from Spirit Hall under Crown Prince's command. Salas looked at Su Wen and groaned in his heart. Boy, your guess is not big enough. 2. If you want to read 50 chapters ahead, check out patreon.com/JohanLT. Chapter 44, Xiaozhan's Bottleneck. Salas at this moment felt a sense of superiority as if else was intoxicated while he alone remained sober. 5. As for the true identity of Jinring Su, the people who knew included the elders of the Spirit Hall at the level of title Douluo, and the Spirit Masters responsible for executing this plan. 1. And Salas was one of them. As the Hall Master of the Saint Spirit Hall in Heaven Dao City, many of the Spirit Masters' movements here required his cooperation, so he knew about this plan. Hall Master, are you asking me to pretend to join Crown Prince? With a Crown Prince's status, it could indeed resist many prying eyes, and if both sides got along well, it was still possible for the other side to arrange several Spirit Emperor-level guards. After all, Su Wen's activities were generally only at the Heaven Dao Imperial Academy and the Great Spirit Arena. It's almost right under the Crown Prince's nose, and very easy to arrange. Yes, you also need to demonstrate enough value. Salas pretended to ponder for a moment before speaking. If it was only the fact that he was 1,000 years old second spirit ring and was well suited to inherit Xiaozhan's way, it would not be enough for a country's crown prince to specially arrange guards for him. Is the Hall Master referring to my identity as a scholar? Exactly, Salas nodded, with a meaningful tone. Su Wen, you need to understand, although Spirit Hall is powerful now, in terms of history, the two great empires have the longest history, and they may possess more information than Spirit Hall. Spirit Hall has many strong individuals, but its development time is short. However, the existence of many special Spirit Masters in history can be known through basic information, but their specific information is not so easy to collect. After leaving Spirit Hall, Su Wen went directly back to Heaven Dao Imperial Academy. Xiao, there may be many forces approaching you after today. Don't worry about their pressure. Xiaozhan saw Su Wen and patted his shoulder. Uncle Zhan, I don't mean to doubt, but you're just a spirit saint, right? Just, Xiaozhan widened his eyes, looking at Su Wen with a surprised expression. You don't think being a spirit saint is a high status? Being a spirit saint is already a high-ranking official, isn't it? What's more, is Xiaozhan an ordinary soul saint? I didn't mean that, Su Wen denied. The status of a spirit saint is quite high. He didn't look down on it, but he subconsciously questioned it because the major forces that might come knocking on the door could have spirit saints or even stronger experts presiding over them. HMPH, kid, do you know what level my soul power is at? How much? Su Wen asked curiously. 79 levels, although he has been stuck at this level for nearly 10 years, having such a high soul power level puts him at the peak among spirit saints. Moreover, Xiaozhan is renowned for his self-created spirit skills. He can fight as he pleases, with his fire demon style and spirit skills that covers offense, defense, close combat, and long-range attacks, making him invincible among peers at the same level. Even with his numerous self-created spirit skills combined, he has a real chance of contending with Spirit Douluo. 79 levels, Su Wen widened his eyes. Doesn't that mean, Uncle Zhan, you could become a Spirit Douluo at any time? Xiaozhan, who had been looking proud, suddenly stuttered. Ahem. It might not be easy to break through to level 80, what's going on? Su Wen was curious. Xiaozhan put on a desolate expression and said, I pursued both the quantity and quality of soul power too eagerly during my cultivation, which led to my soul power's liquefaction progress and accumulation, far surpassing spirit masters of the same level. Su Wen stared in disbelief. Uncle Zhan. What did you say? Could you repeat that? Well, since you asked, I might as well warn you, Xiaozhan said. Book martial spirit isn't suitable for combat, so we have to find ways to improve our combat. You can enhance the total amount of soul power by getting spirit rings, or improve the speed of soul power recovery, or enhance the quality of soul power, but never compress soul power during the cultivation process based solely on your cultivation technique. Xiao Zhan's tone was stern. But the more he spoke, the more Su Wen's expression became eerie. So, Uncle Zhan, is this how you cultivate invincibility among spirit saints? It's not just because of the fire demon style and his spirit skills, but also because of the quality and quantity of his soul power. Yes, Xiao Zhan nodded. The cultivation of spirit masters involves storing soul power in a gaseous state within the body until reaching Spirit King. Breaking through to Spirit King rank requires condensing it into liquid state, giving birth to liquid soul power. It's only when you reach level 89 that the meridians in the body are completely filled with liquid soul power. At that time, breaking through the bottleneck leads to level 90, and the liquid soul power will also solidify. Now, my body is already filled with liquid soul power, which means that to break through level 80, I need to solidify soul power. This is the bottleneck for breaking through to title Douluo, and my other conditions are far from the level of those peak spirit masters who are spirit Douluo. But, Uncle Zhan, aren't there techniques to solidify soul power? Xiao Zhan shook his head. To break through, one can only rely on opportunities and luck. Su Wen breathed a sigh of relief, thinking to himself that this is normal. Nowadays, in the cultivation of spirit masters in Douluo land, it's still at a primitive level, lacking techniques for condensing spirit cores. Breaking through level 90 probably relies on luck. The poison pill of the poison Douluo is probably the key to his breakthrough, and other title Douluo likely have similar cores. Thinking about this, Su Wen suddenly had an idea. Nowadays, the title Douluo on Douluo continent don't have soul cores, and the potential doesn't seem to be bad, either. In this era of Douluo land, there are also quite a few limit Douluo. However, there are still differences. For example, the number of title Douluo is very scarce, whereas in later generations, there are many more title Douluo. Perhaps the vortex form of the spirit core is more perhaps, the title Douluo breaking through in this era, although not condensing spirit cores, are condensing forms more in line with their own martial spirit's true form. Seeing Su Wen deep in thought, Xiao Zhan nodded satisfactorily. It seems like he's taking it in. In reality, he didn't know that Su Wen was already pondering what the conditions would become if, according to the current cultivation methods of Douluo land, solid soul power was condensed at level 70 and then broke through to title Douluo. This might involve the conditions for breaking through to limit Douluo in Douluo land today, and to find out the answer to this question, one would have to ask a limit Douluo. Douluo, Su Wen isn't sure whether the methods of the current era or the spirit core method of later generations are better. But he knows one thing, the spirit core method of later generations is clearer, the breakthrough method is more solidified, and it's easier to break through. So he presented this idea to Xiao Zhan. Xiao Zhan was surprised, but he didn't have an earth-shattering reaction. He shook his head and said, "It's not that simple. If you want to read 50 chapters ahead, check out patreon.com/JohanLT. Chapter 45, Knowledge is Power. The theory of condensing liquid soul power into solid soul power in the form of a vortex is excellent, but so far, no one has succeeded." Su Wen learned about the current exploration progress of the spirit core method in Douluo land from Xiao Zhan's mouth. No one has succeeded. How come no one has succeeded? Well, theoretically it's perfect, but to form the spirit core, as you said, in the form of a spirit power vortex, it requires linking all the soul power within the spirit master's body, involving too many complex procedures. Xiao Zhan shook his head. Listening to Xiao Zhan's explanation, Su Wen slowly understood the reason why there were no successful cases of the spirit core method. Currently, the only way to solidify liquid soul power is for the spirit master to have a fortunate realization, a natural process where the soul power within the body operates harmoniously without the need for the spirit master's adjustment. It feels more natural and in tune with one's talents. It's also easier. However, wanting to condense using the spirit core method, although more standardized and seemingly having a unified structure, requires perfecting the operation of soul power during the condensation process of the spirit core, and ensuring the perfect operation of the vortex turning into solid soul power. It's like asking a group of spirit masters who prefer to rely on intuition to practice to study science pick up. However, in the current era, in the initial stages of development, there will still be resistance. Even the complete path of soul power circulation hasn't matured, let alone adding a spirit core structure on top of that, enabling the spirit core to coordinate the circulation of soul power throughout the body. However, even though there have been no successful cases yet, The theory of this spirit core method you mentioned has not shown any theoretical errors so far. What's lacking is just the method. Xiaozan pondered for a moment before speaking. Actually, various major powers are already conducting research in these areas. Since they had come to this point, he didn't treat Su Wen as someone who knew nothing. Su Wen's level of research in martial spirit cultivation theory was high enough to understand these matters on his own. Most importantly, the meridians named in his theory were closely related to the study of the spirit core method. Su Wen's significance lay not only in his theory of transcending levels in spirit ring absorption, but also in his involvement in various other projects related to meridians. Currently, any force with a spirit master of spirit Douluo level or above should be conducting research in this area. Spirit Hall's research is the most profound. They've already begun to explore several sets of soul power circulation routes. Xiaozan was one of the participants in this research. It was unavoidable since this method aided in the solidification of soul power and might determine his future opportunities for advancement. So, Xiaoan, you must remember, do not actively compress your soul power during the cultivation process. Finally, Xiaozan reminded Su Wen once again not to compress his soul power. Don't worry, Uncle Zan, Su Wen replied verbally. As for what he thought in his heart, only he knew. The next day, Xiaoan, let's not practice today. What's wrong, Uncle Zan? Someone wants to see you today, Xiaozan said. Who? Su Wen asked, curious. His Royal Highness the Crown Prince. Havendao Imperial Academy, a separate conference room. When Su Wen entered, the young man was already seated in the main seat. He was dressed in luxurious attire, but it didn't seem overly extravagant. Instead, his demeanor appeared quite approachable. The Crown Prince, Zhu King. Or more accurately, she was Jinring Su. Su Wen greets His Royal Highness the Crown Prince. Xiaozan greets His Royal Highness the Crown Prince. No need for formalities, Senior Xiaozan. I'd like to speak with Su Wen alone. Even as the Crown Prince, Zhu King remained respectful and courteous, addressing Xiaozan as senior. It's not claiming to be a junior, just a simple form of respect. However, Su Wen knew that this was just her persona as the Crown Prince. It had to be said that this kind of Crown Prince really made people comfortable, and he probably had the allegiance of many powerful spirit masters who were convinced by him. After Xiaozan left, Su Wen was left alone in the room with the Crown Prince. However, Su Wen knew that there was definitely at least one titled Douluo watching from the shadows. That was the power of the Spirit Hall. Su Wen, I've looked over your information, and you're quite impressive. Thank you for valuing me, Your Royal Highness, Su Wen replied calmly. There's no need to keep calling me Your Royal Highness. With your talent, achieving Spirit Saint status in the future shouldn't be difficult, and there's even a slim chance of becoming a Spirit Douluo or even a title Douluo. If you don't mind, you can call me Big Brother Zhu, Your Royal Highness jests, Su Wen replied without overstepping. Zhu King stood up and approached Su Wen, looking at him and saying, your talent as a spirit master is excellent. To develop the buck martial spirit to such an extent, coupled with the opportunity of the second ring at 1,000 years old, your future prospects are limitless. His tone shifted as if he were questioning Su Wen, saying, but I've learned that your identity in the great spirit arena is as a scholar warrior. Do you truly see yourself as a scholar rather than a spirit master? He seemed to caution, your cultivation talent is outstanding. There's no need to be distracted by other pursuits. If it's merely a hobby, then forgive my intrusion. Seeing the other party bring up the topic of being a scholar directly, Su Wen mentally applauded him. Your Royal Highness, in my view, research into martial spirit theory is equally important. Oh, I believe in one thing only, knowledge is power, Su Wen said unconsciously. His demeanor seemed to change, becoming that of a scholarly figure immersed in books. A deep-seated confidence radiated from him, inadvertently seeming to influence others. Knowledge is power, Zhu King murmured, seemingly pondering the meaning of Su Wen's words, his gaze becoming even brighter. In my opinion, research into martial spirit theory is for the cultivation of spirit masters. By mastering knowledge, one grasps the essence of spirit master cultivation. By applying knowledge to the cultivation of martial spirits, one lays the groundwork for their own cultivation. Transforming acquired knowledge into power is what makes a true scholar. Scholars can wholeheartedly study theory. But scholars aren't limited to just studying theory. Flexible application is fundamental, and applying it to oneself is even more crucial. A scholar who cannot solve their own dilemmas isn't a true scholar. Oh, Jin Ringsu herself found Su Wen's words quite reasonable. With your confidence, you must have made some gains. Would you care to share? Su Wen hesitated slightly. Don't worry. Didn't you just say that knowledge is power? If you have a talent for theoretical research, I, on behalf of the royal family, can provide you with the necessary resources for your research. Study to your heart's content, and your cultivation will become easier. Jin Ringsu wanted to see if Su Wen would once again pledge his support to the Crown Prince of the Heaven Dao Empire, armed with the theory of surpassing spirit ring absorption, which he had already gained support for from the Spirit Hall. If you want to read 50 chapters ahead, check out patreon.com/JohanLT. Chapter 46 Impressing Jin Ringsu. Jin Ringsu herself is the young master of Spirit Hall, and her fundamental interests are still tied to the gains and losses of Spirit Hall. However, her current identity and communication with Su Wen is also the Crown Prince of the Heaven Dao Empire. Such a disparity in identity makes her inner feelings somewhat tangled. If Su Wen reveals the theory of absorbing spirit rings beyond the level already classified as secret by Spirit Hall, how should I view him? If he does, is Su Wen playing both sides, enjoying the benefits of Spirit Hall and then coming to flatter her as the Crown Prince, or does it belong to Su Wen being subdued by the aura of her Crown Prince? 3. Or perhaps, when that woman arranged it, she allowed him to disclose the theory of absorbing spirit rings beyond the level to me, thus joining my ranks. Jin Ringsu least hopes for this situation. In everyone's eyes, Su Wen should not know the true identity of Crown Prince Zhu King. If the theory is leaked, it is equivalent to informing the Heaven Dao Empire. The theory researched by Su Wen naturally gives him the right to spread it, but Jin Ringsu, as the future leader of Spirit Hall, will not be pleased with him for this, and there's no problem with that. Then Su Wen will show it to your highness. Sitting cross-legged on the ground, Su Wen began to enter a state of cultivation. Jin Ringsu is somewhat puzzled. She is ultimately Jin Ringsu, not the true Zhu King. Her spiritual power and perception are far beyond what the surface identity of Zhu King can possess. After a moment of astonishment when Su Wen entered the cultivation state, she felt it. She took a deep breath, calming the turmoil in her heart. Soul power circulation route, she said with great certainty. Su Wen did not conceal anything, even triggering fluctuations in his own soul power, making it more noticeable. Young master, it's the soul power circulation route, and it's extremely complete and complex, no worse than the latest achievements in the hall. In secret, the porcupine fish Douluo communicated through spiritual power. His words were actually quite tactful. In his view, the soul power circulation within Su Wen's body is not just not inferior to the latest routes researched by Spirit Hall, it's significantly more sophisticated. It forms a complete circuit, and there even seems to be a connection between them, creating a system that penetrates throughout the body. It could probably function locally even during battles. Could Su Wen be a genius in theoretical research? Beyond the theory of absorbing spirit rings beyond a level, there seems to be this hidden achievement. Jin Ringsu's perception is also keen. Having the head spirit bone from the angelic set, her perception is even stronger than porcupine fish Douluo. However, Zhu King, as a practicing novice, shouldn't have this level of perception. Zhu King appeared genuinely confused, silently waiting for Su Wen to finish a cycle of cultivation before expecting an explanation. Your Highness, during my cultivation, I discovered that soul power circulates within the body through various pathways, and these paths are interconnected, forming a complex system. While admiring the other's acting skills, Su Wen took the initiative to explain. I found that the meditation techniques of spirit masters do not have a comprehensive summary on the circulation of spirit power. Therefore, I independently explored a route. Oh? Soul power circulation route. Zhu King's eyes lit up as he looked at Su Wen, expressing surprise. Observing this, Su Wen seemed satisfied with the Crown Prince's ability to recognize the situation and also showed a proud expression for his achievements. Your Highness, this is the result of my research, the soul power circulation route. During daily meditation practice, using this route to circulate soul power can enhance cultivation efficiency by 20%, Su Wen confidently stated. Jin Ringsu appeared genuinely surprised. Well done, young man. Fortunately, I can see through you, otherwise, the real Zhu King would have been thoroughly deceived by you. This complete circulation route doesn't just enhance cultivation efficiency by 20%. It's at least 40%. Moreover, not only during daily meditation practice, but it's also likely to maintain basic circulation during battles and even in ordinary life. significantly strengthening the Spirit Master's endurance. Wen hasn't calculated the efficiency of this circulation route properly. In her view, Su Wen wanted to gain the support of Zhu King by presenting a suitable ratio and not take too big of an advantage from her. This honest act from Su Wen have earned her favor. Su Wen still has Spirit Hall in his heart. The hidden porcupine fish Douluo also felt that Su Wen understood the situation well. By concealing his identity and entering the Heaven Dao Imperial Academy, joining the Crown Prince's side, seeking benefits while also maintaining a balance, Su Wen has not fully supported the other party but has gained enough appreciation to reap benefits. Originally, they were still pondering how to perceive Su Wen's revelation of the theory of absorbing spirit rings beyond the level, but now they have cast aside this issue. A true scholar, a theoretical genius, how could you be satisfied with just one set of theories? Crown Prince Zhu King had a smile on his face, and his gaze towards Su Wen was full of admiration. Su Wen, you're excellent. He even showed a side that was inconsistent with his usual persona, laughing loudly and praising Su Wen. After the praise, he returned to his composed demeanor, but his eyes still revealed admiration. The circulation route of spirit power. We also have research in the Heaven Dao Empire. I can arrange for you. The research results in the royal family can be at your disposal. He waved his hand generously. Thank you, Your Highness. Just call me Big Brother Zhu. Yes, thank you, Big Brother Zhu. Zhu King showed a smile at having poached a genius with great potential. Xiao, why did you join the Academy's Research Institute? Xiao Zhan had a puzzled and perplexed expression. Before the Crown Prince left, he directly ordered Su Wen to be transferred to the Research Institute of the Heaven Dao Imperial Academy. What did you do exactly? How did you manage to gain such significant benefits directly? Apart from the research data in the institute, the resources that can be mobilized simply by joining the Research Institute are enormous. 3 years ago, for a research project requiring spirit bones, the royal family indeed selected a good spirit bone from the treasury and sent it to the Research Institute. Su Wen wore a proud expression fitting his age. Of course, it's because Crown Prince believes in my extraordinary talent and provides me with excellent cultivation conditions. Give me a break. Xiao Zhan unceremoniously patted Su Wen on the head, saying, you wouldn't expose anything you shouldn't, right, Uncle Zhan? You can rest assured, I know my limits. That's good. Saint Spirit Hall. Salas fell silent as he watched the order from the Consecration Hall to include Su Wen in the Soul Power Circulation Route Project research and to open up all research results to Su Wen. This Su Wen still has his own agenda. The transfer order came from the Consecration Hall, and its source is evident, undoubtedly reflecting Jinring Su's intentions. Salas does not believe that Jinring Su would allow Su Wen to join the Soul Power Circulation Route Project without a valid reason. Having seen Su Wen only once, the fact that Jinring Su made such a decision suggests that Su Wen must have achieved a certain level of success in this project. Salas is somewhat displeased. Su Wen didn't say a word about his accomplishments in this project. Hey, you kid probably don't know that even if you hitch yourself to Crown Prince, you can't escape the grasp of my Spirit Hall, right? If you want to read 50 chapters ahead, check out patreon.com/JohanLT. Chapter 47, Another Offer. There was no need for Jinring Su to explain to Salas, and Salas was also unaware of what had happened between Su Wen and the Crown Prince. He could only speculate based on the results. Su Wen definitely had research results in the field of soul power circulation routes, and it might be even more valuable than the theory of absorbing spirit rings beyond one's level. This could explain why the Crown Prince directly used the relationship with the Consecration Hall to involve Su Wen in relevant research projects. However, the truth must not be known to Su Wen. I have to say that I fought for him, and as for why I fought for him, I'll use his joining the Heaven Dao Imperial Academy's Research Institute as an excuse. Salas quickly figured out the aftermath of the situation. As for not reporting the results of Su Wen's soul power circulation route to Spirit Hall, but instead revealing it to the Crown Prince of Heaven Dao, Salas was initially uncomfortable with it. However, after calming down and pondering, he also clarified the crucial details. The young master clearly values him and decided to fully support him and provide him with resources, and even use the Spirit Hall to involve him in the research project on soul power circulation routes. Therefore, Su Wen's performance should not have disappointed the young master. The arrival of the Crown Prince is just a signal. After the Crown Prince's arrival, the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon family also extended an invitation to Su Wen. The one in charge of contacting Su Wen was the family's young patriarch, Yu Xianheng. Xiaoan, Captain, you represent your family, right? Yu Xianheng nodded and said, Xiaoan, your talent is very high, and with teacher Xiaozan training you, your future achievements will not be low. I represent the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon family and want to recruit you. Sorry, Captain, I cannot join your family. Su Wen shook his head and directly refused. I also thought you wouldn't agree. Yu Xianheng felt it was only natural and had anticipated this outcome. So, Captain, you're just asking Xiaoan, Yu Feng said. Xianheng replied, not exactly. In fact, our family intends to impart some cultivation techniques to Xiaoan. It's just that her Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon martial spirit is of the Thunder attribute, which doesn't match with Xiaoan. The other 6 who were watching slightly in agreement. It's understandable. For a large family, investing in a talented spirit master is quite common, and the Great Spirit Arena is specifically established for this purpose. The Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon family, due to Yu Xianheng's knowledge of Su Wen's identity emerging in the Great Spirit Arena and the convenience of contacting him, wouldn't easily give up the investment. Fighting side by side, coupled with some investment, having at least one Spirit Saint level ally in the future for the family is a win-win situation. Even if it's just a possibility, it's worth considering. Yu Xianheng spoke to Su Wen in front of all the team members, not treating Yu Feng and others as outsiders. In fact, our family also sees great potential in Yu Feng and others, but we were planning to extend an invitation after graduation, Captain, and then, Su Wen looked at Yu Xianheng, feeling that he had more to say. Although our family's inherited martial spirit is the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon, I have an aunt whose martial spirit mutated into a Fire Dragon martial spirit. Also a top-notch dragon-type martial spirit. She is now a Spirit Saint, hiss. Yu Feng took a sharp breath, his eyes full of envy. Look, this is what it means to have a background. The concept of a powerful family is too generalized and doesn't have a strong impact, but when someone's grandfather is a titled Douluo, and they have an aunt who is a Spirit Saint, the impact is much stronger. Oh, Su Wen naturally knew who Yu Xianheng was talking about. My second grandfather is currently trying to contact my aunt, asking her to take you for training for a while, Yu Xianheng said. Su Wen looked at Yu Xianheng with surprise in his eyes. This kid really lacks emotional intelligence. Speaking out something that's not confirmed yet? If Liu Erlong refuses later, the psychological impact might be counterproductive. Yu Xianheng was unaware of this, thinking that Su Wen had a different interpretation, and quickly explained, I didn't mean that. Xiaozan's fire demon style, and self-created spirit skills, are unparalleled on the continent. While our Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon family may not compare, my aunt's martial spirit is a Fire Dragon martial spirit. In terms of fire attribute spirit skill attacks, she has her own strengths, even without a self-created spirit skill. There are numerous fire attribute spirit ring spirit skills. With a sufficient understanding of her own spirit ring spirit skills, Yu Xianheng's aunt could guide Su Wen in developing the fire demon style. Su Wen nodded to express his gratitude. To train under Liu Erlong? Does that mean joining the Blue Tyrant Academy? Yanzi, doesn't your family have any response? Is a title Douluo? Our family doesn't have much influence. As for taking in disciples, let alone mentioning it, my grandfather has a poison attribute, not the same system as Xiaoan. Yu Feng scratched his head, not feeling awkward. He then looked at Shimo and Shima, the two brothers who also had strong families. After a moment's thought, he decided not to ask further. Su Wen, observing Yu Feng's attitude, was somewhat speechless. Alright, training is still the most important, he said. Blue Tyrant Academy. Back Mountain. Inside a small wooden house, Liu Erlong looked at her father, not very interested in the request he had just made. Erlong, Su Wen has extraordinary talent, with a high likelihood of becoming a spirit Douluo in the future. With the example of Xiaozan, who excels in the fire demon style, Su Wen is likely to become a formidable spirit Douluo. Adding Xiaozan to our ranks would be advantageous for the family, Yu Luomian persuaded. However, Liu Erlong remained unmoved. Sigh, Erlong, I know you're still upset about what happened back then, but Xiagang is your cousin. Back then, Yu Luomian sincerely hadn't done anything wrong. Su Wen has exceptional potential. Yesterday, we received news from Xianheng that Su Wen has joined the Research Institute of the Heaven Dao Imperial Academy, under direct orders from the Crown Prince, Yu Luomian continued, Regardless of how Su Wen gained the Crown Prince's favor, it's undeniable that he is not just a genius in cultivation. He also possesses on the royal side. Crown Prince has already made his move, and the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon family has also expressed their intentions, but the benefits offered are not as direct. It's not that their conditions are bad, but they are not straightforward enough. At this moment, Su Wen is somewhat looking forward to the scene when the wealthy Seven Treasures Glazed Tile sect, with which he has a connection, contacts him. It should be at the Great Spirit Arena, right? If you want to read 50 chapters ahead, check out patreon.com/JohanLT. Chapter 48, Arrival of Ningfengzi. The movements of the Seven Treasure Glazed Tile sect were not slow either. Just on the third day after Su Wen appeared in the Great Spirit Arena, he was informed by the staff here that someone wanted to meet him. There were quite a few people who wanted to see Su Wen these days. After all, he has a 1,000-years-old second ring. However, the staff wouldn't assist with everyone's requests. Now, Su Wen, after inquiring, also learned the identity of the person from the staff. Glazed Tile sect. The reason for the delay of one day was not because the intelligence of the Seven Treasure Glazed Tile sect was behind or they didn't pay enough attention to Su Wen. Su Wen was extremely surprised because the person he was meeting this time was the sect master of the Seven Treasure Glazed Tile sect, Ningfengzi. The sect master personally came to meet him, showing sincerity. Su Wen, I am Ningfengzi, the sect master of the Seven Treasure Glazed Tile sect. Nice to meet you, sect master Ning. Looking at the 11-year-old youth in front of him, Ningfengzi felt emotional. He waved his hand and said, I am also the teacher of the current Crown Prince. I talked to him about you yesterday. Since you call him Big Brother Zhu, you can call me Uncle Ning. Upon hearing this, Su Wen felt quite emotional. Indeed, Ningfengzi was a figure capable of developing and expanding the Seven Treasure Glazed Tile sect. Uncle Ning is quite good. The Seven Treasure Glazed Tile sect was wealthy and influential, being the richest sect in the entire Douluo land. Su Wen naturally wouldn't refuse to build a closer relationship with its sect master. Ningfengzi's expression was gentle, revealing a hint of a smile. He said, in that case, I'll call you Xia Aum from now on. He paused, not rushing to reveal the true purpose of this meeting, but instead inquired about Su Wen's current progress in cultivation at the Academy 1. My Seven Treasure Glazed Tile sect, leaving other matters aside, our collection of experiences in cultivating various martial spirits is the most comprehensive. Ningfengzi could confidently vouch for this. The true lineage of the Seven Treasure Glazed Tile sect, the Seven Treasure Glazed Tile Pagoda Spirit Masters, were all in the auxiliary system, requiring protection from combat spirit masters. The sect's recruitment of various types of strong attacking, defensive, and controlling system spirit masters within the sect was extremely complex. When it came to the cultivation of these spirit masters, the Seven Treasure Glazed Tile sect's efforts were no less than those of other sects or families, indicating its profound heritage. I'm afraid that throughout the entire Douluo land, besides the Spirit Hall, the Seven Treasure Glazed Tile sect is the most profound in researching martial spirit cultivation. In certain aspects, such as martial spirit evolution, the Spirit Hall may not even surpass the Seven Treasure Glazed Tile sect. With guidance from Teacher Xiao Zhan and Teacher Qin Ming, my cultivation in various aspects has been very smooth, Su Wen said. Ningfengzi didn't want to push too much during their first meeting and focused on gathering information about the details of the 1,000-years-old second ring. He summoned his martial spirit, and the splendid heavenly book floated in front of him. 2 spirit rings, one yellow and one purple, rose from under his feet, gently pulsating around his body. Ningfengzi's gaze fixed on the second spirit ring. Purple. However, he didn't show too much surprise. After observing the second ring, his focus shifted mainly to Su Wen's martial spirit itself. Looking at the dazzling and uniquely patterned book martial spirit emitting a special aura, his expression changed. It seemed to impress him even more than witnessing the 1,000-years-old second ring itself. The development level of your martial spirit is very high, nearly perfect. In just 2 days, Ningfengzi had already checked Su Wen's records registered in the Spirit Hall. Although the Spirit Hall kept many details about Su Wen's whereabouts and joining confidential, Su Wen didn't conceal too much about the registration information from awakening his martial spirit to each advancement. If there are too many changes, there will be more suspicion, and people will notice the clues. The results of Ningfengzi's investigation were very accurate. When Su Wen's martial spirit first awakened, it appeared as an ordinary book martial spirit. Even in appearance, it was quite ordinary. However, just after obtaining the 2 spirit rings, Su Wen's book martial spirit had already evolved into its current state. "No wonder you're a spirit master of the book martial spirit." When he marveled, there was genuine admiration and envy. You book martial spirit masters truly broaden one's horizons with their development of martial spirits. The direction of development for book martial spirits is almost the most diverse among all martial spirits on the continent. This was a fact. There were even book martial spirit masters specializing in agility and attack. Of course, those who could achieve success with a book martial spirit were all outstanding, but each of these book martial spirit masters had their unique characteristics. Su Wen was also like them in Ning Fengzi's view. This is due to the characteristics of martial spirits. Book martial spirits are highly adaptable, making them easier to develop. However, the difficulty of development is also high, as book martial spirits are inherently fragile, Ning Fengzi explained to Su Wen in an elderly tone. Of course, when it comes to martial spirit development, the crucial factor is the spirit master themselves. The spirit master is the foundation. If a spirit master doesn't wish to follow the path of a battle-type spirit master, even if they train in that direction, it might backfire, and they won't achieve the desired results. Book martial spirits also influence the same book martial spirit may suit different paths of development in the hands of different people. "I see. Thank you, Uncle Ning, for clarifying," Su Wen said, suddenly enlightened, expressing his gratitude to Ning Fengzi too. Ning Fengzi couldn't help but smile wryly at this moment. Su Wen was an interesting character. Even from the Crown Prince's perspective, he had learned quite a bit about Su Wen. He had heard about Su Wen's proficiency, although in theoretical aspects of cultivation, the Crown Prince didn't disclose specific achievements. He did mention that Su Wen had unique perspectives on cultivation theory. Su Wen himself didn't expect that the Crown Prince would share his information with Ning Fengzi in such detail. "Xiao, would it be convenient for you to share the details of the absorption process of your second spirit ring?" Ning Fengzi asked. After some thought, Su Wen nodded and said, "Yes. It's like this." In explaining to Ning Fengzi, Su Wen chose to use more detailed and authentic language than he did when dealing with the 3 members of the Board of Education initially. "Monkey wine, physical prowess." Ning Fengzi lowered his head, pondering Su Wen's words, feeling that something was still missing. Suddenly, he looked up and asked Su Wen, "Xiao, if I recall correctly, your second spirit ring is of the spiritual attribute, right?" "That's right," Su Wen nodded. He didn't know why Ning Fengzi was asking this, but he sensed that his own story might need some improvisation to hide important details. But at the same time say enough to get more benefits out of these walking cultivation treasuries. If you want to read 50 chapters ahead, check out patreon.com/JohanLT. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 49, I Have a Daughter. Would it be convenient to tell Uncle Ning about any breakthroughs you've had in spiritual power after the second spirit ring? Ning Fengzi seemed confident that Su Wen had made a breakthrough in spiritual power. Su Wen looked surprised, hesitated for a moment, nodded, and said, "Yes, with the help of monkey wine, my spiritual power surged. Since then, I've been able to mobilize spiritual power, and after obtaining the second spirit ring, I directly opened the sea of consciousness." Opened the sea of consciousness. Ning Fengzi was astonished by Su Wen's breakthrough. Such a significant breakthrough. It's worth noting that many spirit saints may not necessarily be able to successfully open the sea of consciousness. However, after getting Su Wen's answer, he went from surprise to excitement. "It seems my guess was correct." Su Wen's answer preliminarily confirmed his speculation. "If my guess is correct, you should have felt a powerful impact when absorbing the second spirit ring, and opening the sea of consciousness was also completed under this forceful impact." This time, Su Wen was genuinely surprised. "Judging by your reaction, it seems there was indeed such a process." Ning Fengzi smiled and said, "In that case, I can understand roughly why your 1,000-year-old second ring could be successfully absorbed. Luck is a tricky thing. Many times, it's really hard to fathom. Your martial spirit's innate soul power is at least at the 5th level, indicating that it can't be a completely ordinary book martial spirit. It must have undergone a mutation, likely in the spiritual attribute. This is probably also the reason why you chose a spiritual attribute spirit ring for your second ring." Su Wen nodded, continuing to listen as Ning Fengzi explained why he could successfully absorb the 1,000-year-old spirit ring without needing him to come up with a reason. And Monkey Wine effectively helped you unearth your talents in the spiritual aspect. At this point, your martial spirit itself was at an evolutionary node. Stimulated by the Phantom Fox's 1,000-year-old spirit ring, which completely exceeded the tolerable range, your martial spirit underwent evolution. A significant portion of the power within the spirit ring was used to impact the sea of consciousness for you, coupled with the robustness of your physical qualities enhanced by Monkey Wine, which helped you withstand it. In conclusion, according to Ning Fengzi, the most crucial factor for Su Wen's success was the consumption of a considerable amount of energy from the spirit ring in the process of opening the sea of consciousness. It's also possible that the power consumed by the evolution of your martial spirit was too much. These deductions are based on the premise that Su Wen's martial spirit is in the process of evolution or is on the verge of evolving. Your martial spirit is undoubtedly mutated, and it may not be fully mutated. All these conditions combined are what shaped Su Wen's 1,000-year-old second ring. Su Wen looked genuinely shocked. Ning Fengzi's research on martial spirits was indeed thorough. Apart from the subjective factors and methods during the absorption of the spirit ring, he almost guessed how Su Wen managed to endure the process of standing the 1,000-year-old spirit ring. Of course, Su Wen was able to perceive the martial spirit space and actively infuse the spirit ring's soul power into the martial spirit space, participating in its transformation and alleviating the pressure on the body's meridians. The excess energy indeed had two directions. One was used to open the sea of consciousness, and the other was for a better and more thorough evolution of the martial spirit. Considering the characteristics of the 7 treasure glazed tile pagoda, Su Wen quickly understood why Ning Fengzi could have such a profound understanding of martial spirit research. The 7 treasure glazed tile sect is rich and possesses a comprehensive collection of martial spirit information, second only to Spirit Hall, especially in the spiritual attribute. This is mainly observable in those spirit masters whose martial spirits have undergone incomplete mutations. However, most of these spirit masters rarely get the opportunity, as even achieving a 100-year first spirit ring is not guaranteed, let alone absorbing a 1,000-year-old spirit ring. However, with this mindset, targeted cultivation seems to have some hope. Ning Fengzi contemplated the feasibility. There's no need to absorb across colors. Even if it extends the limit by a few hundred years, the effects will be quite noticeable. Ning Fengzi, with thorough research on the 7 treasure glazed tile pagoda martial soul, was confident that this was the most promising path for their martial spirit's evolution. Regardless of the specific spirit beast or the number of years, the spirit skills of the 7 treasure glazed tile pagoda spirit masters are generally fixed for each spirit ring. Then, what's the use of absorbing spirit rings with high age limits? This puzzle has never been solved by any generation of 7 treasure glazed tile pagoda spirit masters. Because, under favorable conditions, no one would absorb white in the first ring or yellow in the third ring. However, speculations on this matter have never stopped. For example, Ning Fengzi is a strong advocate of increasing the potential theory. Alright, Xiaoan, Uncle Ning has learned all he wanted to know today. Ning Fengzi was satisfied with the information he had gathered today. The breakthrough during the absorption of the spirit ring. This inspired him. Yes, perhaps when absorbing a spirit ring, I can break through from a different angle. By simultaneously consuming the spirit ring's soul power during the martial spirit's absorption of the spirit ring, I can indirectly enhance my endurance. He couldn't wait to go back and conduct theoretical deductions, even verify within the sect. Xiaoan, I have a daughter. Su Wen blinked, listening as Ning Fengzi continued. She's a bit younger than you, just over 9 years old. Her soul power has been stuck at level 19 for quite some time. This time, I brought her along, planning to let her participate in some battles in the Great Spirit Arena, see if it can provide her with some stimulation and lead to a breakthrough. Seeing through Ning Fengzi but not exposing him, Su Wen sighed. Uncle Ning seems to need my help. Yes, Rongrong inherits my 7 treasure glazed tile pagoda martial soul, being an auxiliary spirit master. So, she can't participate in 1v1 battles. It just so happens, Xiaoan, that you specialize in frontal attacks. You could team up with Rongrong for 2v2 battles, Ning Fengzi said. I just don't know if you are willing to take her with you, Uncle Ning. Rongrong is only at level 19. If we fight together, we'll likely be assigned to a team with Spirit Grandmasters, Su Wen reminded. I believe in your strength, Xiaoan, Ning Fengzi smiled. To use this opportunity to assess my abilities. Since Uncle Ning trusts me so much, I will definitely protect Rongrong, Su Wen said. Rongrong, Ning Fengzi, accompanied by Su Wen, entered a large private room in the Great Spirit Arena. Upon opening the door, Su Wen saw a lively little girl playing with a staff. Daddy, you're back. Ning Rongrong's eyes lit up as she looked at Su Wen, saying, is this the teammate you found for me? Approaching Su Wen, she appraised him, looking adorable. At least for now, she seemed quite adorable cute. Xiaoan is older than you, so you should call him Brother Wen, Ning Fengzi said with a serious expression. Ning Rongrong stuck out her tongue, silently repeating in her mind be obedient. She had promised to follow many conditions this time. Hello, Brother Xiaoan, if you want to read 50 chapters ahead, check out patreon.com/YohanLT. Chapter 50, Tacit Cooperation. Ning Rongrong all called him Xiaoan, but Su Wen didn't mind. It sounded more pleasing that way. Hello, Rongrong, Ning Fengzi said on the side. Rongrong, your brother Xiaoan is a genius. You should learn from him and cultivate well in the future. Okay, Dad, you're so annoying. I also cultivate well, Ning Rongrong pouted, holding her head in her hands, as if she didn't want to listen. Ning Fengzi, seeing this, twitched his mouth. He was just saying nice things, and so quickly he couldn't suppress her attitude again. Brother Xiaoan, what are you amazing at? Can Rongrong take a look? Ning Rongrong turned to Su Wen, wanting to see Su Wen's prowess. Su Wen smiled and directly summoned his martial spirit. One yellow and one purple, 2 spirit rings rose from under his feet. 1,000-years-old spirit ring. Ning Rongrong widened her eyes, and opened her small mouth, looking surprised. 1, 2. She counted the number of Su Wen's spirit rings, and her mind became a bit confused. Dad, didn't you say that the second spirit ring can only be below 700 years? Haha, that's the amazing thing about your brother Xiaoan. Other spirit masters can't do it. He's the only one on the current continent whose second spirit ring has reached 1,000 years old. Ning Rongrong circled around Su Wen, observing left and right. She thought the second spirit ring, which was purple, looked cool. Brother Xiaoan, how did you do it? Can Rongrong also absorb 1,000-years-old spirit ring when getting the second spirit ring? The more she looked, the more eager she became. She looked up at Su Wen with a pleading expression. Ning Fengzi chuckled and shook his head, saying, Rongrong, your brother Xiaoan is a special case. Don't be silly, isn't up to par, it might explode with a bang, Su Wen said, exaggeratingly gesturing with his hands to depict the exploding scene. Humph, why can't I do it? There are too many conditions that need to be met to succeed. Su Wen shook his head, looking at Ning Fengzi. Ning Fengzi understood and mentally gave Su Wen a thumbs up. Anyway, making Rongrong work hard for a while is a gain. Rongrong, wanting to absorb 1,000-years-old spirit ring requires high physical fitness, Ning Fengzi said. Ah. It also requires exercise, Ning Rongrong frowned, her small face showing displeasure. She hated exercising, especially the kind that was physically painful. Of course, physical fitness is one aspect, and besides that, spiritual power must reach a certain level. Spiritual power, yes, our 7 treasure glazed tile sect's heart separation control can train spiritual power. Ning Rongrong suddenly became alert, staring with big eyes as she shifted her gaze between Su Wen and Ning Fengzi. You guys aren't tricking me, are you? Rongrong, indeed. This is the reason your brother Xiaoan successfully absorbed the 1,000-years-old spirit ring. Of course, Rongrong, you don't need to compare yourself to your brother Xiaoan. As long as you practice well and break through level 20 as soon as possible, your grandpa sword can find you a 100-year spirit ring closest to the second ring's limit when the time comes. A father knows his daughter best. Within the sect, Ning Rongrong could be unruly, partly due to her high talent. If she was surpassed by someone of the same age in a particular aspect, she wouldn't dare to stir up trouble. Instead, she would work hard to surpass them and transform into a little witch again. Unfortunately, there were very few geniuses within the 7 treasure glazed tile sect who could suppress Ning Rongrong. Rongrong, it's okay if you can't absorb a 1,000-years-old spirit ring. Maybe with a bit of effort, you can absorb a spirit ring of 800 or 900 years, Su Wen spoke at this moment. Ning Rongrong bared her little tiger teeth, fiercely saying, impossible, I will definitely be able to absorb a 1,000-years-old spirit ring. However, as soon as she said it, she felt a bit regretful. Her eyes shifted, and she came to Su Wen's side, pulling on the hem of Su Wen's clothes, looking pitiful. She asked, "Brother Xiaoan, is there any trick?" "Of course there is, really," Ningrongrong exclaimed with joy. "Of course, after we team up and fight against 2 spirit grandmasters, if we win, I'll tell you." "Okay," Ningrongrong clenched her fists, showing a spirited appearance, thinking with a purple spirit ring, just releasing it will surely astonish everyone. Ha ha ha. Thinking of such a scene, Ningrongrong's eyes formed crescents. "In that case, Rongrong, we need to first understand each other's abilities." 1 hour later. In the next match, the I Won't Play support team versus the cat team, please prepare, both teams, too. When her name was called, Ningrongrong felt a bit embarrassed. "What a weird name," she muttered to herself. "Alright, get ready, the battle is about to begin." Su Wen led Ningrongrong onto the stage. Seeing 2 children stepping up, the 2 women on the opposite side breathed a sigh of relief. They looked at Su Wen and Ningrongrong with a slightly teasing expression. "Little brother and little sister, are you sure you didn't register incorrectly?" The 2 female spirit masters in the cat team were informed before the start that their team was being challenged by strong opponents, so they were worried. But now they only appeared to be 2 kids, and one of them was not even spirit grandmaster. The audience below was also surprised by the age of the 2 participants. Su Wen was understandable, being around 11.5 years old, but due to absorbing 2 spirit rings and sufficient evolution, his height had reached 1.7 meters, making him not look particularly small. However, Ningrongrong was only 9 years old, truly a little child. While the cat team and the audience questioned, the referees were not overly surprised. This scholar warrior had caused quite a stir in the Great Spirit Arena before, and the referees had heard about him. As for the other little assistant, she had been specifically instructed by the supervisor earlier to be careful and not let her get hurt. This also indicated that the origin of this little assistant was not ordinary. Therefore, the cat team and the audience regarded Su Wen and Ningrongrong as children, but the referee did not. Both sides, get ready, the match begins. Martial spirits were released. The 2 sisters in the cat team both had cat-type martial spirits, 1 black and 1 white. Their spirit rings were 1 white and 1 yellow. On the other hand, the I Won't Play support team was more dazzling. Their martial spirits and spirit rings also elicited exclamations from the onlookers, and even the cat sisters on the opposite side wore solemn expressions. The famous 7 treasure glazed tile pagoda. The yellow spirit ring shimmered. And Ningrongrong immediately used her first spirit skill to enhance Su Wen. A 20% increase in power. But Ningrongrong was not the most eye-catching. The real attention was on Su Wen's martial spirit and spirit rings. His martial spirit was impressive, a book with vibrant purple patterns. What truly astonished people, however, was the pairing of his 2 spirit rings, 1 yellow and 1 purple. Attention to the reactions of the spectators. The heavenly book danced above his head, pages flying out, forming a dozen or so pages that circled around Ningrongrong. Simultaneously, the book martial spirit connected with the energy of heaven and earth, and flames began to emerge from Su Wen's fists. If you want to read 50 chapters ahead, check out patreon.com/JohanLT. End of this chapter. Thank you so much for reading until the end. Don't forget to give it a like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription or donation encourages us to continue. Thank you all. See you in the next video.